squad was put together for. Falcons rising! Falcons champions!
The people players, though.
That he's swinging with the charge up rapid, doing a billion damage.
Even as a duo, to output defense balls!
To the Apex Legends Global Series. We're back, and I know it's been a little while, but it's match day 4 for America, so this is technically our first week back since we all saw each other at the ALGS Open in New Orleans, where Team Falcons made a loser bracket run to take home the trophy. We just wrapped up EMEA a couple hours ago, and now it's time to see what the Americas can bring to the table after this little bit of downtime. My name is Glitter Explosion, and I will be your host for today. And of course, joining me are the wonderful duo of Vicky and Genome. So let's get them back in here. We've got an open this time, guys. We are ready to go. Vicky, are you prepared for Americas?
I mean, as prepared as we're ever going to get after the action that we saw go down in the open. We've seen a lot of people shift around, moved around rosters, changing rosters. I mean, that's kind of how roster mania works here in the competitive Apex space. But I'm excited to see how that's influenced the Pro League.
100%. We saw a lot of chaos in EMEA, Genome, but now we're looking at the Americas, and they won't be immune to those changes either. So excited to see what the potential newness can bring to the lobby.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of teams that have changed rosters. There's also some that haven't. And, you know, we saw Alliance run the lobby in EMEA. And at LAN, there were 2 teams that stood above the rest, Falcons and Alliance. So can Falcons do the same that we saw, bring that level of play that Alliance did earlier on today?
Yeah, definitely a great way to kind of get back into the swing of things here when it comes to this split. So let's take a look at which of our teams we're going to be participating in the competition here for today, because just like we saw in EMEA, we've got groups A and B ready to battle it out. So any of these teams just, jumping out at you real quick here, Vicky?
Yeah, Envy. I mean, the fact that now they have Skittle Cakes, I mean, this is going to be an insane squad. I know I take scrims with a grain of salt, but looking at how they've been able to do so far outside of an ALGS environment, I think this team is going to do very well. And of course, Liquid.
Of course. Now, for some of you at home too, you might be noticing as we're taking a look at these teams that these names, or some of the names, are not familiar. Well, that's because we mentioned changes. We have some team name changes here in this region as well. Nine Lives Esports, a team that we hyped up a lot at the Open, is now Ninjas in Pajamas. ACP over to Most Loved, Spectre Esports, Villainous, and Purple Slushy Citadel Gaming. We have one more page of this, so not as many as we saw in EMEA, but still a decent amount, because Sentinels are back in the mix. MPIRE now over to Sentinels. Complexity has unfortunately disbanded, and HUSS is over to TSM, which is something that I think people were speculating about here, Genome.
I mean, yeah, shouldn't that say like Complexity to the bakery? Because as far as I know, that's where our beloved Monsoon went. It's very sad to see him go. That said, plenty of other roster changes, and we can't dwell on anyone for too long, unfortunately, because we've got crazy moves like Panic, after his breakout performance at the Open, is going to be removed from Team Awkward and replaced with Luxford over on TSM. You've got Skittles Cake making his way for Panic. That's where he ended up. And, I tweeted about this. It was like, this is history repeating. We're seeing 2 veteran players on TSM pick up a young, promising roller player. Last time it was Verhulst. This time we're seeing it in Panic.
Yeah, you can see there for Liquid Alien where Karev is out, Yanya is back. And as we take a look at these final changes, that means that Sykes will be joining NRG. Nocturnal, we saw him tweeting about how he wanted to be back in the mix on LG now, and you mentioned it as well, Vicky, of course. Skittle Cakes in the mix now for Envy to replace Sykes. So it's only been a couple weeks, but our players have managed to really shake things up on us before we get back into the swing of things here when it comes to this split. So now that everybody is updated at home with all of those changes, let's take a look at our overall standings for where we're at in Pro League for Americas so far, so you guys can kind of get a lay of the land. I know it has been a little while, but when it comes to this overall standing, we've got VP at the top with 39 points, followed by Shopify, and of course Falcons there in third. So, I mean, this is a pretty good idea of where things stood prior to the open, but I think it's going to be very different now heading into the rest of the split, Vicky.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know we won't be seeing VP perform considering that they're in like Group C, but looking at everybody else and those roster changes, you talk about TSM, T-Law. I know, again, I mentioned it before. I take scrim bugs with a grain of salt, but it's about what we've seen already as progress, as anything to perform with these roster changes, how that's going to influence a lot of these squads going into this today.
Yeah, so we've got a nice little update here for everybody. I'm excited to see what a lot of those roster changes do. We saw that they were pretty impactful when it came to the EMEA side of things, so we'll see if it does the same here when it comes to the Americas. But now that we've kind of explained the chaos of the last couple weeks, let's start focusing in specifically on some of these squads that we would like to talk about, because I think there's a lot that we have to get through. Vicky, I'm just going to come straight back to you. Talk to me here. Which team do you want to be focusing on?
I want to focus on no other than TSM, because we know with Skittles exiting out, joining Envy, and now picking up the Young Gun Panic. W pickup, by the way, for TSM. Not only is he a young and talented player, but he had an average of 1.1 thousand damage per game that he played at the ALGS Open. And when he was on Team Orchid, he was also considered the second most valuable player at LAN behind Imperial Health. Now joining a powerhouse of a team and org, following some of their scrims just a bit, they've been consistently getting top 5, bringing Panic into the fold, but we know how things play out differently outside of scrims. It's about keeping that consistency into a lot of the day, and how that's going to shape out for the rest of this squad. I think Panic having so much potential that he has right now, being that controller fragger, it's something that Dupe is not unfamiliar with. Like you mentioned before, Glitter, we know that he's been able to do the same thing with Burhos long time ago back in the days of ESA, but now bringing Panic together with Gent and Dupe, I think this is going to be a really good team. Panic is going to be the fragger that they definitely needed.
Yeah, we knew after the open that someone was gonna pick Panic up. So excited to see what he can do with the TSM roster. But Genome, you're up next. Give me your thoughts. Which one of these teams is really jumping out at you?
Yeah, look, I'm just going to have a quick chat about Envy here. As you can see, with Team Envy, they have taken on Skittle Cakes here. He's joining Dropped and Zap. Now, obviously, Zap moved over previously from TSM. He gave away the IGL duties. That burden has landed on the lap of Dropped, and I think he's honestly been very happy to pick that up. They had Sykes with them when they went into the ALGS Open. That led them to an 8th place, a top 10, very solid result there from Envy. And frankly, I think they're going to be a little sad about losing Sykes. He's an incredible player, so strong, but it does depend on the kind of team and the chemistry and the vibes you have, whether Sykes is going to gel with you or not. So I think there's some potential here, considering previously on Optic, Dropped and Skittle Cakes had such a fantastic amount of chemistry together that there's potential for these guys to get back to those high highs that we saw from them.
Absolutely. I think that that's a really good shout. I'm excited to see what Envy can do. I know Vicky was ready to spam any Skittles related gifts to get a little bit of the hype going for Envy. So I think that's a really, really good squad to be keeping your eyes on here when it comes to what we've got going on in the series here today. For me, though, I want to talk about Falcons, okay? And if you're confused, don't worry, Zero didn't go anywhere. We're just, he's still there. But let's talk about Falcons, because we need to go all the way back to the open if we're going to talk about Falcons. Heading into that LAN, I think, you know, everybody knows that there was some contention between Hal and Zero, where people were wondering, are they going to be able to get their mental ready? Are they going to be locked in for LAN after, you know, the kind of back and forth struggles that we were seeing with the squad? And then we get to LAN and we find them in a situation where they end up in the losers, the elimination bracket. Not where they wanted to be, but we also know that Falcons are a team that can play very well under pressure. Well, not only do they make their elimination bracket run into the match point finals, but then we get to match point finals and they win in a fashion that almost seems too easy. We even heard Zero say in the interview that it felt too easy. Once they got to this point, the first team to ever get the win after coming out of the elimination bracket. And we have to wonder, is this the point that Falcons needed to get to? And are they good to go now? How, as well, winning the MVP at this LAN? Genome, I want to get your thoughts on this, because are they now settled? Have they found their groove?
I think so, and with legend bans coming in, with Waltzy finding his way onto crypto and being able to buttress the team in that way, they absolutely have found their stride. Hal is playing at arguably his career best right now, which is saying something for the CEO. And with Zero, of course, always making the IGLing calls as he does. It really feels like they are firing on all cylinders right now.
Well, Falcons are kind of a good segue here for the next thing that we're going to be talking about, because we're going to start filling everybody in at home for what you might have missed over these last few weeks. And the first thing is a little bit of love for a new creator that we have in the Apex Legends scene, Stone Fox. Okay, now you can always scan that QR code up at the top of your screen if you want to see any of the content that we're talking about here. But Stone Fox delivering with the content specifically about the Open. So if we're talking about the Falcons, this is a great time to go and check this out, whether you missed the Open and need a little bit of a recap, or you kind of want a more in-depth conversation around the whys and the hows that Falcons were able to bring home that dub. So wanted to give a little bit of love to a new member of the community creating some quality content. Also love the vibes, a little bit of comedy mixed in, a little bit of the B stream as well. So that is always really fun. If you guys are here in chat, definitely go check that out. But if we're speaking about important people of the community, beloved by the community and the Falcons, we also have to talk about privacy, okay? Because first of all, we have a shot of his reaction to the win of Falcons from the Open. We're going to start with that because it is arguably one of the most wholesome things that I think I've ever seen. I mean, that man just wears his heart on his sleeve and could not be any prouder to not only be working with the Falcons, but just be part of the Apex Legends scene in general. So let's take a look at that.
Please, hit.
Oh no!
Huge.
What? Let's go!
I mean, you can just see all at once, the emotion just hits privacy, and he's so happy for them, so proud of his team. And he's also got a podcast, okay? So if you want to learn more about ALGS, Apex Legends in general, just the comp scene, talk about a brilliant analytical mind in privacy. So once again, go check him and his content out. You guys could definitely learn a lot from him. And of course, he's just a lovely human to begin with. But that's only half, not even half of what we've had going on here so far. Obviously, a new patch means a new legend, Genome. So talk to me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so we've got Sparrow, the latest recon legend, coming into the mix. Seems quite strong. Lots of teams using him. Some regions we're even seeing him be the first ban in some of the series, depending on which teams are playing, what kind of maps we're going at. But look, let's jump into this clip here where we're watching Albralele, who is known as one of the players who can jump into a legend and master them before almost anyone else. We see him use the ultimate here, the Stinger Bolt. There's two different options. You can get 3 of them, or you can use this one. As you see it, watch this, moving up his health and shields about 50 HP at a time, and actually allows him to get this incredible clutch to win the game with. So he uses the kit to perfection there. He's got the double jumps, the movement abilities to go around, as well as just zoning out the other team to do some damage and healing himself at the same time. So honestly, yeah, just a beautiful play and showing some of the potential of our new legend here.
Yeah, I love that, because I think we've definitely, prior to Sparrow coming into the mix, we were wondering, you know, what will he bring? Will we see him in comp at all? Is this something that our pros are going to want to be using? And I love that we're getting already highlight moments, these clips out of our pros showing exactly how the utility of Sparrow absolutely can play a role in the ALGS. But we still have more to go, okay? And I couldn't think of a better person than to teach me the definition of aura than Vicky. So Vicky, talk to me here. What have we missed?
All right. Well, when you think about aura, there's one thing that comes in mind that radiates aura, and it is the Presidente Yanya being back for his second term with Team Liquid Alienware. I want to show you guys their highlight video.
I'm back.
He only needs one line. That's all he needs to let everybody know that El Presidente is back on Team Liquid Alienware after having to kind of adapt around a different type of playstyle. Being back at home is where he feels comfortable. But you know, that's not the only change-up that we have. We have a team making way across the sea from one region to another, and that is Ninjas in Pajamas, or Ninjas in Pajamas, looking at their highlight video and their announcement, picking up a great roster that was formerly Nine Lives and Curve from Liquid. Going over the video. And yeah, it's going to be really crazy to see that you'll be raving about our new Apex Legends roster. If you're a fan, you'll be McLovin' us, but if you're a hater, fighting us will be in vain. We're writing the cure of, but always shoot straight. Welcome to the dojo, Legends. Tagging Vane, McLovin, and Curve, hashtag EWC 2025. Ninjas in Pajamas. They don't miss, it looks like, but I have to respect, you know, maybe leaving some of those puns, you know, back somewhere else, but I'll accept it for now. It's pretty acceptable looking at the roster they picked up.
I can't. Who wrote that? Who drafted that tweet? We need to have a conversation, okay? We're going to have to find out whose idea that was, but great job, guys. Hopefully everybody at home enjoyed being filled in on everything that you might have missed over these last couple weeks before we get back into the swing of things here for the split. Now, as we prepare to dive into our first match here of the day, if you guys are wondering how you can watch it, one of the best ways to do it is on Face It Watch, okay? All you have to do is head on over to Face It Watch and you can watch the ALGS your way, whether that's up to 4 different player POVs, you want to watch the map feed, claim your Twitch drops, or even watch it on mobile. This way you won't miss a single second of what we have going on here in the ALGS. It is a really, really cool way to hear player comms, keep up to date with everybody the way that you want to watch, as you can head on over to faceit.com/watch to do exactly that. And then, of course, we have some really, really cool guests when it comes to halftime. We've got Zach Mazer coming on to hang out with us. So we've done this before. Chat, send us your tweets, your comments on social, anything like that, so we can ask him questions. If you have questions, we'll make sure he gets them, okay? That way, you can find out the answers to the most burning thoughts you could possibly have when it comes to Zach Mazer. I'm excited to see what he's going to be talking about with us over there at the halftime. But like I said, we've got our matches about ready to get underway. Match number 1 is good to go. So Vicky, Genome, let's kick off the Americas.
Thank you so much, Glitter. All right, Genome, after coming off from EMEA, seeing how Sparrow has been integrated into Pro League, you know, getting a little bit more action than what we've been able to see from scrims, and coming fresh out of New Orleans over to the ALGS Open, we got crazy roster changes. We got players moving around, maybe fitting into a squad that they felt comfortable with before. But we also have different map rotations introduced here within this split, and that's going to be Broken Moon starting off our day within our series.
Yep, so same if you were tuning in for the EMEA region as well, same rotation, right? 3 maps, Broken Moon to start with, and then we finish off with 3 over on Storm Point. Now, if we're thinking about how the draft worked, thinking back to the other series we saw there today, Vicky. We start off with an Alter ban, then Ash, then Ballistic. Will it be the same, or will we see a bit more Sparrow, with Sparrow not getting banned out this morning across the pond?
Maybe. I feel like with the way that Newcastle lived for as long as he did, no legend ban on Newcastle all the way to the end, I feel like we are completely shifting our attention to priorities on a lot of these legend picks. Taking a look at the POI draft, we also got to see a bit diversity, I would say, in some of the end zones of Broken Moon. And I say that loosely because I felt like I kept seeing the same end zone pulling over to the south right of this map when I was studying scrims, but now getting a little bit more variety and seeing how teams are gonna have to kind of adapt around transcending through a lot more open ground here. In terms of Broken Moon though, you know you have those way too tight chokes to really play off of. Alter really coming in clutch at the very start of a few of those games that we saw in our previous region. Now looking at where everyone's gonna be and playing off of that Broken Moon.
Yeah, there's some interesting POIs when we look at the draft here for Broken Moon. Places like Underpass, Cliffside, Solar Pods, even Hazmat Tunnel. They're these sort of weird in-betweens where they're not really a POI, they're just a link between two different POIs. And how the teams play from those situations can have a massive effect, Vicky, on how these games play out.
Let's get it started, everyone. Match number 1 for groups A versus B in Americas starting now. Broken Moon really allowing us to see how some of these teams have been able to navigate around either these tight chokes and these legend bans on top of it all. But it looks like with the zone specifically already starting off our day here, maybe pulling a little bit more over to that north side.
Have to see if that continues up towards the core. That said, I've seen so many quarantine zones in recent days, Vicky, that I wouldn't be surprised to see it center on the map and have teams all funnel into that one sort of giga POI in the middle.
First, taking a look at Falcons off of their fresh win of the ALGS Open. We were making some jokes real quick while we were waiting for our game to start, Genome, and mentioning, you know, Waltzy being in the middle between both Zero and Hal, feeling like, Mom, Dad, please stop fighting. You know, sometimes things work out there for this squad as it showcased already for itself in the Open. Not having an issue, though, when it comes to a zone like this, because this zone is pulling towards their POI of Alpha Base, and they already have a ring console and a server beacon to play off of.
Good info there for the Falcons. Looking across to their team composition. The question is, do they have the Evo Harvester? Yes, they do. It's actually, you can see them hitting it right now. And that should be moving their fuse up to blue and therefore being able to hit the ring console, which, yeah, as we mentioned, there is going to be just super important because if you don't get the spawn, it's not 100% every game. Sure, survey beacons, they're always going to pop up, but the ring consoles won't. So this is a boon for Falcons as they watch teams like NRG and Team Awkward already move on top of them.
And Alter having 18 picks on our 18 squads here, by the way. So
damn.
Alter will be, right? I mean, that's a statement. We actually saw something similar, I feel like, in EMEA, but this really showcases how strong Alter is on Broken Moon. So many teams already making their rotate too. Liquid Alienware making their way out of Breaker Wharf, also getting some information, and an Evo Harvester, so little EB eating nice. Falcons will be stationed nicely over in Alpha Base. Looking at the squads are also have already not only gotten ahead on their rotate, but been able to find some space here, as you can see NRG.
Yeah, they're pretty well set up. Old mate Sykes that we just talked about has left Envy and has joined NRG. If you missed the pre-show and you missed the absolute cataclysm of teams, players, roster changes that happened on Twitter and across the board in between the New Orleans LAN and this second half of our first split of Pro League.
It's difficult to follow up, honestly. So much to keep track of, but it makes things interesting here, because you also have to consider synergy that's being built up for a lot of our squads. They're going to be able to utilize this replicator here. This also showcases how the Newcastle is being utilized a lot more this first game than what we had seen within the EMEA region.
I just love like how creative you can be with Alter, you know, just little situations like that. It's like, usually if you are posted up in a building like that, you can't afford to go outside and craft, you know, you'll be too worried about getting sniped, about someone, you know, taking your spot, something like that. But with Alter, the possibilities are endless. Of course, that does mean you are open to potentially counter engagements if teams decide to use their void passages to come into those buildings, and you've got to be aware of your surroundings at all times. You're never safe with Ultra in the lobby.
No, absolutely not. And especially because you could go for some cheeky plays. We've seen it being done before with some kidnap attempts.
Oh, yeah.
ROC are stationed up inside of this building, though, on the higher ground. A good spot to be because they could also camp this Evil Harvester right here, deny that opportunity from other teams that may desperately want that on their rotate. Thinking about 100 Thieves who will be rotating out of Cliffside where they'll have a survey beacon. Other teams like TSM Flat also in the middle of their rotate. They're actually about to meet up with one another here on this other side of the choke.
Yeah, looks like all three of these teams, 100 Thieves, TSM, and Flat, all thinking the same thing. They want that late scan of the beacon, of the ring console, I should say, on Stasis Array, which will give them further information in what spots they might want to slam and play for.
Guild already getting a knock, by the way, in your feed, so the action has already commenced over by Alpha Base. When more of these teams take their time to rotate in, Flat gonna be able to use that next portal.
Oh,
With
no.
that nade, though, nice nade placement right there. Big Louis forced to have to now reset, pop the shield bat outside of the building.
Yeah, just as we're trying to give Sentinels their flowers for getting, you know, a team that is relatively new to Pro League, and they get a top 10 finish at the ALGS Open. It was one of the biggest stories I think we had there. Certainly a result that not many people expected, and yet they, you know, I think have really increased expectations for themselves with such an outsized result.
That's what the Open was all about. That's what I'm always keen on seeing. New talent being brought up, getting what they deserve, because that's what keeps competitive Apex on their toes. Can't get too comfortable out here as Panic, that young gun legend now, going to make their rotate being on the altar. Talk about some creative plays. You have to also mention the quick rotate opportunities that you have, especially if you have a player that can help scout out up ahead. As you can see, the charge rifle on the other side looking at TSM.
Yeah, big shoes to fill for Panic, and you know, certainly it's an org that comes with a big fan base, right? TSM, you know, possibly the biggest fan base in all of Apex, and certainly some of them who are going to be very happy to see one of the brightest stars, one of the hottest prospects on the entire market get picked up.
So closing in, 100 Thieves making their rotate. Where they start coming up here. Over on the north side completely. So they wrapped all the way around outside of Stasis, all through the choke that would lead out of Breaker Wharf. And they're currently staring down Liquid Alienware. So while they are stationed up here with that Void Nexus, they're going to be able to not only stay and look ahead at the squads that have already found some space in these buildings, but they have to decide, do they want to try to wrap up on the other side? Because you could also expect teams have already found their place in this BOI.
Nice little use of the Void Passage there to avoid some damage, get through the ring. The invulnerability it gives you can be useful just for dodging small parts of damage as you make micro rotations, and certainly our teams that have gotten in as much practice as they could on Alta before she's essentially become so good now that she's getting banned out at the start of most series. They have to try and make the most of her while she is still available.
It's such a good get out of jail card when you have your Void Nexus available to you, so that way you could put it down, see if you could find a positioning, see if you could take a fight, and if you don't like the situation, you just take it right back. And it's allowed so many free resets, as we've seen not only at the Open, but so far throughout the course of Pro League. Look at their positioning right now. By that fence line, over to that north side. TSM's over still by Stasis Array. But then it's also making the rotate on the outskirts here, but roughly 6 squads that are still in the outskirts of that next zone if you're looking at the teams that may have that ring info.
Board look like they may be having a gander at Flat, as Envy also look on. Quite split, but potentially looking to gatekeep some teams from the chokes around core here. Twisted Minds, quite a late rotate in from them as they also go towards 8th gang. But here's that that fight between Board and Flat.
Vidal's also getting a knock in the feed here. Flat now moving up after getting that knock onto NJ. Breaking down the door, keeping them locked in. Flat with a nice cleanup, taking out Board in 19th. And there you go. There's that Void Nexus that we were mentioning before. You just reposition right afterwards, hoping that maybe there isn't another team that walked up. But they already knew that they had cleared their backs, at least here. Nobody's going to be coming in from the south side of Cliffside. And with the teams that do have the information on where the zone is pulling, alpha phase zones are actually pretty frequent. We've been seeing them quite a bit as Villain is taking onto the high ground. Devo in hand has been so destructive. Right through the cap portal, though. You just spray and pray. With Jet being one shot, now TSM are in trouble. Only leaving Panic alive.
Okay, Panic. I think he has to just panic and get straight out of here at this point. This isn't the time to, you know, make an effect level play and go for the 1v3. It's game one. You just want to play this safe, get out, find a crafter, and reset your team. If they're giving you that opportunity, if they're not chasing you, you have to take it.
It's a good thing he got out the time that he did, because right on their tail was Flat that were trying to approach to see if they had the opportunity to third party. There was a ring console at Stasis, so teams do want to prioritize that POI to rotate in to get that info. Shopify with MT going down, though, will be able to get revived. We're trying to help him out, too, with Zainu being on that fuse. Envy now trying to force their way in.
Okay, nice having the support perk from Koi on the altar. That does allow MT to reset pretty fast here, frankly. And Envy, after not being able to capitalize on that knock, are going to actually back off a little bit. Neighboring buildings. We have to see from their minimap whether they've got the zone information already. You imagine they probably would have en route to this one. And just having a look around, there is a ring console. They'll just have to briefly pop into the zone to grab it in core if they want to play for that. But that's kind of hard, Vicky, with the amount of teams that are still left in core at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, making their rotate out of their POI now, specifically talking about Envy, they knew that there was a team on the outskirts that could have taken the opportunity to third party that, being Twisted Minds, and having that Void Nexus just allowed them to reset, reposition. Looking at Shopify, I feel like I'm getting a little bit of deja vu because we saw a very similar situation play out earlier in the day. And we know that that choke where we currently see CTE holding can get very destructive, especially with the zone actually pulling more so to the south, away from Falcons building.
Interesting. Have they actually noticed that Envy have started taking their Void Nexus? As you see there, the other two members will join Skittles, who was the first to get out and move their way towards Flat, actually. That just leaves 3 teams now. Twisted Minds, Ape Gang, and then SR on the back side of this. So Twisted Minds, it kind of looked like they were thinking about playing for that ring console, but no, they just want the fight instead, I guess.
Just looking at Ape Gang instead. I want to try to prioritize clearing up this choke here because they really only have 30 seconds. This is going to be round 3 closing in. This is going to be a detrimental fight for them to take, but this could also be the invitation that Shopify needs to third party this and then clear their back. CTE, by the way, are looking at everything go down, and they're happily settled inside of the building by the zip lines.
Yeah, I don't know if CTE are going to push out since they have such a good gatekeeping position. I think it makes sense for them to stay put for the moment. But Twisted Minds actually made their way through Ape Gang and then around. Meanwhile, this is that fight that was brewing we talked about. Envy have pushed down onto Flat. They've actually scattered them from either sides. TSM, by the way, evacing on top of one of the Flat members right now. They got the full reset, and they're taking some shots from Shopify Rebellion on their evac in.
Panic the Go keeping the dream alive for TSM, not only flying in through that choke that we mentioned before, but at such a good time because now this is when Twisted Minds are flying out of their own evac tower. Everybody, it's not just Twisted Minds, it's Envy, it's Ape Gang. We saw Movie Star Koi also move in from an evac. Everyone's flown in and trying to find their space within the outskirts of Alpha Base.
Oh my lord. So Rock now getting into this with Villainous and Koi as well. Fun! Can't dodge the nades in time, and the high ground that Deeds controls right now is the perfect way for Rock to start this game with hopefully some KP. They haven't picked up any just yet.
Well, it's the fact that they're positioned in such a good spot. They're banking on the zone to continuously pull over to the south. They don't know what we know, though, which is the zone is pulling directly on top of NRG's building. Envy get eliminated. Yanya getting even more knocks, finishing off one of the members. of movie star Koi. Looking on, though, is going to be Shopify Rebellion. They see the team that's still holding on to height, CTE, that have not moved from their positions, and Shopify not even worried about the fight that is happening right behind them through the choke. They try to trick push up here. Twisted Minds, with Enemy getting that knock and finishing blow onto Nano, have the advantage.
Yeah, one member left of alive of Flat, and they seem to take out the last member of Ape Gang, but they are surrounded by 3 or 4 teams, and it seems very unlikely that they'll be able to find space for a reset here. Meanwhile, Shopify Rebellion continue to have trouble getting the opening kills against some of these teams, and MT has to just desperately hope he gets the Void Nexus off in time. It looks like he'll just make it.
Oh, that clutch timing on that to actually disengage, because FURIA moved up after hearing that fight between CTE and Shopify to third party that. FURIA take out CTE, and Shopify are still alive, and taking that Nexus is now going to allow them to try to at least reset without getting finished.
I've got the 2 of them. The mobile respawn beacon is enough to get the 3rd back, so Shopify Rebellion are up and cooking. Twisted Minds, they're going to come here on SimJ. Oh my lord, don't care. They'll just face plant and tank those piercing spikes, but TSM kind of want to do the same thing to them.
Oh, but they were so low when they started the engagement. Panic goes down, Duke gets a finishing blow, and they just need to finish off what was left at their feet, because they also desperately need all these death boxes. After being freshly rest, look at what they're working with.
Incredible amounts of loot coming the way of TSM, but FURIA is now running in. I think only as a duo, though. They manage maybe even just 1 member now left of FURIA. They beat off SR, but after that they are going to make their way into the zone and just have to try and rat it out.
And not the only solos too, right? We have another rat being Shopify. Falcons lose out on 0 before getting fully swung. We highlighted them before. Liquid Alienware welcoming Yanya back into the fray. They've been farming so far, highlighting a lot of this kill feed, by the way. 10 squads left as they dismantle Falcons. 100 Thieves with only Phony left.
A lot of teams potentially going for the rat, though. If they don't get the full kills on Jen and Verhos here, Phony may have found a great spot to get them back into it. Someone spotted them out. There is a drone on top of them, but I don't know if that might be perhaps Team Orchid or anyone who really wants to push them. FURIA, it's actually Imandus who's coming in and says, oh, is these some free kills? Actually, no, it's me on the ground.
Gonna get the finishing dust out of the way. He could get a shield swap once he gets the reset too for his squad, and dancing around the Newcastle. FURIA get eliminated with some help from TSM from afar. It is Jet that picks up that KP.
Team Liquid Alienware, they're on the other side of Team Orchid right now, losing out on the superstar Panic and picking up Luxford. Let's see if they've got what it takes to deal with Yanya reunited with his Mexican teammates.
Yanya's now going to be able to slide over to the left side. They know Team Orchid are inside of this building, making sure that not only is this entire east side clear for them to try to take up on top of the roof, but it's TSM and Energy focused in another building so they can try to isolate this team.
NRG have been cleaning up mid-zone, by the way. They're also looking to take Rock down next. They sit underneath them. Of course, you got to remember, these walls are paper thin when Ulta is in the lobby. Shield swaps are plenty. Triple takes, gold, red helms, any variety of loot you could want, they've got it. There's an emporium set up inside this building.
Oh my goodness, what a buffet for them to feast. But it's also great because knowing how many altars are in this lobby, they're denying the opportunity for other altars to pick up that crucial loot that they may need, especially that gold helmet that you saw them pick up right there too from one of those death boxes. See, Liquid Alienware even trying to do something similar. Yanya looking at the death boxes himself, but still holding on to height.
Yeah, and when you see how these buildings play out towards the center of zone, you can see that there's a lot better options for NRG to play towards the end of this game, whereas Orchid Alienware and 100 Thieves are going to be crushed together.
Oh, and they have ultimate accelerants once they put down that Newcastle wall. It's gonna be crucial for the next fight. They're pinging 100 Thieves that are playing right below them. This is 3 squads all stacked on top of each other, and Team Liquid Alienware are literally the start of the Christmas tree.
Yeah, it's interesting. They kind of need the ultimate accelerants, right? Because he was running, what was it? I think it was R9 3030, which means you don't have an accelerator stock available. And that means you got to get your ults back up the old-fashioned way, Vicky.
Yeah, and they also were coming in really early into that next zone too. So coming out of Breaker Wharf, they're kind of lacking in a bit of extra loot for the attachments on their weapons.
Okay, they take the Void Passage to the high ground, or at least they try to. Deeds! Oh no, he's found himself inside! He wanted to be on top! As he's taken the wrong cue!
Oh my, the way that just played out, you know how he's feeling. NRG though, they take it. They're looking at the portal in, but with just strikes alive, NRG now put in shambles, working out for 100 Thieves to just force their way in.
Well, I guess the crazy part is, it's kind of griefed NRG, right? I don't think they were expecting just one person by themselves to pop in, and that's enough to throw a spanner in the works and potentially give this over to 100 Thieves, who seem to be looking pretty handy with Jen Burton bursting these other teams down right now. Remember, they can go back in. They've got 100. They've got Phony ready to use the Void Passage and let them go outside at the very last moment.
Well, Wattis is low though. 2 squads left. It's Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves now. Dancing on the Newcastle shield too. Yanya's just trying to poke at the same time with the P20s, literally dancing around this sliver of cover they can work with, but they lose on these zones. But Wattis is one, and Yanya meets them back in the lobby. It's 100 Thieves play that patiently with his zone closing behind their back, and they take game number 1.
It was a tough rotation there from 100 Thieves, having to work their way in and around up the top of the buildings. But yeah, in the end, some real firepower coming out. Interestingly, seeing more P20s so far in the Americas region than I think we saw out of EMEA. There was a few more SMGs, that kind of thing going on there. But 100 Thieves, that's a great start to them. You got to remember, they're sitting in 4th at the moment, so definitely contenders to be winning Pro League in America, and that's a great start in game day number 4 for them.
Yes, getting some KP, right? AKP. I feel like it was pretty even looking at the teams that were able to pop off. We saw Liquid, again, lighting up the feed earlier on, too. Team Orchid living for as long as they could. They were also able to try to dismantle Rock that we saw that they had fallen in 4th place. But nonetheless, that was a pretty intense endgame there for a lot of our teams, even from the mistakes of the Alter Portal, which I'm sure has happened so many times, too, in general. It happens. You go next, though, as we take a look at the match 1 results.
Yeah, that was so frustrating, like taking it, being like, why am I not going on the roof, and then taking the other one and
it's
it goes
that delay.
inside.
There's a slight delay. That slight delay could really throw you off.
So Liquid finish off with 17 points. NRG with 18, because they, despite going out in 5th, managed to rack up 14 kills. They were on the warpath through the mid stages of that game.
Yeah, and then even looking all the way down at Shopify that we saw them, they were stuck over to that southwestern side of the zone. FURIA, who had tried to go in for the third party. Still, KP spread out evenly with NRG having that most insane game, double-digit 14 kills to their name. May not get the placement, but at least being able to elevate yourself to 2nd place with points alone is a great way to start off your first game.
Very much agreed. 1,000 damage plus for everyone on the top 2 teams. It was Niesel actually managing to top that one out. 8 kills apiece for them. And Team Awkward, Awkward, managing to grab 4 kills as well. I always feel a bit awkward when I say their name.
Hey, you know, orchids, they flourish. They're actually parasitic plants, but if you end up tearing up the lobby the way that we saw Team Orchid really starting things off strong, you get to keep that consistency going into game number 2, which will continue on Broken Moon on the other side of this break.
Hi everyone, I'm super excited to introduce to you our newest legend, Sparrow. It's been a while since we've had a recon legend, and we wanted to bring one that offered a new, unique way of tracking enemies. He's also extremely agile, which allows him to excel at traversing the environment. Let's jump into his kit. For his passive, he has double jump. This allows him to have a second jump while he's in the air. He also has a unique ability called wall launch that allows him to quickly get to the top of walls by pressing jump while climbing. For the tactical, he has the tracker dart. This can be shot out on any surface and will reveal enemies that get within sight of it. Enemies that are revealed will have a trail that can be seen through walls and will also have a marker that shows the distance the enemy is away from you. For the ultimate, we have the Stinger Bolt. This is a large arrow that will be shot out and planted into the ground. After a short charge up, it will pulse out blasts that will deal damage and slow any enemy within its range. Sparrow will be unlocked temporarily for free at the start of the season, so everyone will get a chance to play him, and he'll be yours to keep if you can beat a set of challenges. Jump in and try Sparrow in our newest season, Prodigy.
Welcome back, everybody, to ALGS. It's time for us to continue on with all of our action as Vicky whipped out some botany knowledge there at the end of match 1. Teaching everybody about orchids. I love it, Vicky. I love it.
I have an orchid farm, just as a side note. I love orchids. They're beautiful flowers. And I totally understand genome too, you know, like, especially when you have an accent, it's a little difficult for it to roll off the tongue, but they're great flowers. They're still parasitic though.
Well, let's see if that bit of knowledge can maybe help them through the rest of these matches as we prepare for match number 2. And of course, before we get into match number 2, I want to talk to you a little bit about those final circle moments, because we were watching Liquid have a really, really strong performance overall. And at the end of the day, it was super close. I mean, they ended up with the same amount of kills as the winner of 100 Thieves. But I really think it was that Newcastle wall that was making all the difference.
Oh yeah, it helped out so much too, but also the fact that they were a lot more healthy in comparison to what we saw from Liquid. Like, they couldn't get a full reset necessarily. And we also saw Timmy farming in the feed too before they had eventually gone down. But then looking at the way that 100 Thieves played that so aggressively, they didn't let them reset. They had to get aggressive because they knew that when they put down their Newcastle wall, they were going to eventually have to show up and then expose themselves out into the open ground. So really good call from 100 Thieves just to move up in the time that they did. And it was 2 members of Liquid that were low before the approach, allowing 100 Thieves to win that first game.
Not only did we see some strong performances there, but we heard you guys talking about it when you saw the series results NRG with some seriously high KP. So that's a team to keep our eyes on as well as we head into match number 2. Alter being banned out now won't be able to be played for the rest of the series. And same thing happened in EMEA. We saw how that changed things. We'll see lots more Ashes now to kind of make up for that loss of the portal, Vicky.
Yep, with Alter being gone, you also got to see like how so many people were able to use gift from the Rift, which allows Alter to just grab anything from the death boxes. That's why you saw I believe it was one team that was inside the building that was able to just farm all that loot and keep it inside the building because there's no Loba. It was NRG that was able to do that because there was no Loba. It's not like you have to worry about your loot being stolen there, right? So you get to keep all the loot there, prevent other players from taking it out of their death boxes.
Yeah, I think that we've really seen quite a few of our teams or individual players even blossom under this new competitive meta, you know, having to really utilize an entire squad of our legends here as we prepare to get into our second match of the day, still on Broken Moon, and our teams are getting ready to drop in as we speak. Will we get a similar situation as we saw in match number 1? Will that have been enough of a snowball situation, or will this zone start to favor one of these other squads?
Time to see with game number 2. Saw so many squads with a quick rotate over by Alpha Base, looking at where those zones were pulling. 100 Thieves, they got the dub, but we got to see NRG drop a pretty explosive game. 14 kills. We cannot ignore that. 14 kills. Timmy alone got 8 of those kills. We saw Guild too with over 2,000 damage. So this is a team that, with placement involved, they're so scary just running it down. That's why a lot of people had them on their radar going into today's Pro League day.
Starting off things here with winners of match number 1 in 100 Thieves, as they will be looting up Quarantine Zone. And you were talking about NRG. They drop over at Stasis Array, and I think they have quite a few squads around them, so that maybe if they continue to play super aggressive like that, could be an opportunity for them to get some kills on the board. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves, not too spread out, but will have CIMJ heading their way to see if they can maybe start to be a little bit of a problem. Look at that zone.
Oh, right on top of Team Orchid, actually. Over by the core, they'll be able to actually get that information a little early. Looking at Unleash, who are now already making their rotate out of Cliffside, where there's a ring console, an Evo Harvester, and a survey beacon. So off of this approach alone, seeing FURIA going to be able to get that ring console over to the north side of Spaceport, a lot of these teams now are going to be able to have a better rotation from the squads that had those northern POIs.
All right, well, you can see the rotations are starting to happen. Unleash instantly moving in over from that Stasis Array NRG right there in on the side over at Cliffside. And I'm wondering if they're going to see if they can maybe hold as many of these squads out as possible. And as I say that, they decide that they are going to get in nice and early, settle themselves in. 100 Thieves right there in front of them. And we're starting to see our squads that already did well set up for a little bit of success here, Vicky.
Yeah, and this is a type of zone where there's a lot of space to coexist here. Over by the core, you know, you have those 2 bigger buildings, the middle side too. You hold each separate wing of this middle console right here, as you see NRG already holding one side, but I also feel like there's so many different open angles. They're running a composition that allows them to play this spot safer, but there's a lot of open angles that once this zone starts shifting, whether it pull over to the south side or even to the far east, you know that there's a lot of exposure once you're forced to go through those big walls.
Get a little bit of an overview there. NRG, CTE in the area, 100 Thieves. Everyone starting to collapse in on each other already. Speaking of CTE, they're down to just 2. Jay having fallen, trying to keep themselves alive right now, as you see Chase and Cruel kind of back off and see if they can get a little bit of a reset here. With too many teams in the vicinity, you don't want to open yourself up to a third party this early on if you don't have to. Looks like they'll be able to stick this res here and keep themselves alive.
You don't, and the majority of this lobby has Ash in the play too, right? 17 Ashes to work off, so you know closing in that gap is going to be no issue for the squads that want to either fully send it or even reposition if you have a rat to actually keep your team alive. Play for positioning if you can. CTE, with just a little bit of health, were able to get away.
So a lot of names popping up in the kill feed there as well, as people start to really battle for some space on the northern side of this ring. Get a little bit of a top view there for 100 Thieves. They're kind of in the middle of quite a few squads here. And they're doing a little bit of poke damage. If I'm not mistaken, they were able to get at least 1 knock on CIMJ, who they still have in their crosshairs right now. And it's not looking so good for CIMJ as they are eliminated.
Oh, tough situation to be in right here too. Burrow's gonna be able to pick that up. You see the charge rifle up in the distance. Not only them looking at them, it's Ape Gang also looking at Flat, because you also have that lot over to the south side by that respawn beacon. We tune into the fight happening from inside that same building. Slightly isolated fight unless other squads are quick on their rotate through Dry Gulch, which would be Shopify, but still a few ways away. So trying to isolate this while looking behind them, it's going to be Rock with the Crypto. TSM already inside their own building, allowing them to try to take their time here and maybe poke for some Evo shield pressure.
Watch it. Enemy there.
I like that, you know, we're seeing a really good combination of these squads being willing to get aggressive in the early game here, but also not forcing it when knowing there are so many other squads in play. And as I say that, it looks like Flat is going to be peeking out here just a little bit to see if they can maybe push in on Ape Gang and clear out that side of the ring. If they're able to do that, they'd be giving themselves a lot of space. Meanwhile, Shopify Rebellion outside of the circle, looking down at FURIA, gonna see if they can take this to them. They are eliminated instantly before we even really get to see what happened.
Yeah, that was with the quickness, actually. We're talking about them rotating through Dry Gulch. Well, they're already in the north side of Dry Gulch and find FURIA in the process. Well, they were trying to move back maybe towards that replicator here. It's towards that west side choke that Shopify could approach from once they get the survey beacon and a ring console over by Spaceport, like we had mentioned earlier on the very start of the game for FURIA. Falcons, though, still a little bit behind here, playing on the outskirts. It's gonna be Movistar Koi, Bleemster being able to get that first knock onto 0.
Waltzy instantly gonna see if he can go for this stick and maybe survive the push. Fun moves in as Hal's doing what he can to keep them alive. Manages to take out Fun and give it just enough time to get Waltzy back up. The heals are going to be coming through, and the ring is putting in a lot of work right now in favor of the Falcons, keeping them alive and giving them some space against Movistar Koi.
Hey, you don't have to scream their one shot if the circle does the rest right there in a situation like that. So I know they're happy about it. There's still one last straggler, though, of Movistar Koi who are trying to get away. Falcons aren't looking at him just yet. Maybe seeing if that one last member could try to wrap around, stay hidden away from Falcons. It's going to be hard here. The other member of Movistar actually managing to get away. So having to tune into what they could do now as a duo, as Falcons were able to reset.
I think being able to escape when they did is going to be huge for Movistar Koi. It'll open up the opportunities for them to be able to reset. As you can see there on the map, 2 members of the Falcons are already safe within the next ring, as there's a little bit of a 1v1 back and forth. And even if Movistar Koi does lose, which is exactly what happened right there, having the one left up already trying to go find a place to res the squad is going to be massive. Falcons have done a good job, though, of clearing out that entire eastern edge of the circle, and now they'll be able to move through pretty scot-free and not have to worry about anybody else on this rotation. Meanwhile, you can see just how crowded the north side of the next ring is getting. Squads have really moved in, claimed real estate, and NRG is dead center of everyone.
I want to highlight Movistar Koi just for a bit right now, because that last member is an Ashe, and that's what we were talking about before. The ability to just get away when you're in trouble, to keep your team alive, at the very least, a reset is so important, and why we're seeing so much Ashe 2 in the lobby on Broken Moon. Not even surprised here as Villainous, another team here on the outskirts of Quarantine Zone, are looking at Sentinels. And once they decide to rotate up north to that zone, if they rotate through Cliffside, Falcons will be there, probably prioritizing the ring console. So right now, with their attention looking at Sentinels, wanting to take this fight, they can't ignore the fact that there could be another team that could come in from the 6 to circle keep them.
You can see Villainous here, just trying to play it safe as well. At least getting themselves that much closer to the circle so that if they do decide to turn around and try and do some poke damage to Sentinels, they don't have too far a distance to run in case there is a third party that does decide to come through. Sentinels gonna just continue looting up and decide to go a little bit farther west, see if they can avoid this altercation with Villainous right now, who will be on that eastern choke out of Quarantine Zone. So this could be a little bit rough for Sentinels, considering that western side of the circle is a lot more crowded right now. But they might have enough time gap-wise between the next closest squad to be able to make this way through.
That's gonna be so hard because there's such open space too, and you know that that zip line building up on high ground is gonna overlook the exit point from Quarantine Zone if you are approaching from the west side like Sentinels. Villainous holding the other side of the choke too. Falcons, after getting the scan of the survey beacon and a ring console, by the way, over by Cliffside, are now taking an evac tower to the very far north. They have that next circle info. They won't be able to get another circle info beacon scan, only because that ring console is on the outskirts of where NRG's positioned, dead center in the middle, like you highlighted.
Yeah. And if you are wondering, we do have a full reset for Movistar Koi. It was worth getting out early, able to get all 3 players back in, and they'll be pushing in from the eastern side of the circle. So they have managed to live to see another day, as we get to see what Sentinels are going to be doing on this rotation. They tried to avoid Twisted Minds, instead run into board, as there is a team in every single choke for their exit out of Quarantine. So this is going to be tough. Meanwhile, Falcons went back. They went back for Movistar Koi, Vicky. They're not going to let them survive.
Oh, they can't give him a chance. Not even a little bit here, Falcons. They're coming up to finish what they started off this fight. Movie Star Quite just finally got the res. They finally poked one toe into the zone, and Falcons said no. So now, Falcons, after getting even more KP, they achieved what they started beforehand, and now are going to start making their way. But was going into the zone worth it here if you consider now Villainous have rotated over to the north side of Cliffside, so that way they can also get a scan on the beacon.
Now we'll have to see if Falcons run into them or if they even suspect that there is a squad near them. So let's jump into a quick listen in and see how they want to handle this rotation.
Okay. Yeah, they TP'd away. They TP'd away, by the way. They TP'd away. You should be fine.
Got 45 seconds.
PK gold Evos.
I just need a fucking I need a med kit.
I don't have a med kit.
Way to go.
I'm good to go.
Sounds like they're finding quarantine.
Are we just going that north side like you said, or we're going this way?
We have to go this way now. We don't have time.
Okay. There was 3 teams on this edge before, by the way. There was someone in the corner, I think.
Yeah, I want to check.
Yeah, there was.
It should be going by now.
I don't have ult for
They're
8.
not going. What a bad spot. Batting? Don't come near me. We have to get more right somehow.
I got headshotted. I'm literally 1 HP. The quarantine team might turn back around behind us.
We have to get right on the wall, guys. You have to help me.
Yeah, I'm coming.
You don't make a do.
No, I don't.
I'm waiting for deal. We have TP like there.
Going there.
I'm holding it.
Selling.
I'm ready. Just do it.
Coming.
Go more right. Go more right on me. We can climb up and get the ramp.
I'm surrendering. Okay, I'm surrendering in the corner here.
There's sparrows on us. Careful.
It's bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Good, guys.
Okay, I'm waiting for Sparrow. Hold on.
I know. I'm chilling.
Off of the Ash portal, they'll then rotate deeper into that next zone. I like this play because they were looking at Team Orchid, who were looking at them from the building. TSM were another squad, and then by the fence line was Rock. So they would have had to deal with 3 teams with Falcons. They're not out of the woods just yet. Liquid Alienware are also looking at Falcons with the zone closing in right behind them, just so that way they can maintain this building and look at the other teams that have found their way into that northeastern side of zone.
Honestly, huge play on behalf of Falcons because now we're checking out Board, and Board are one of those teams that were just involved in all of the carnage that happened on the south side of the circle that Falcons just avoided. Villainous out, Sentinels out. Board was in that choke watching all of these fights go down and assisted in kind of clearing them out, and now they are safe themselves on the southern side of the circle, as you can see here with the map being pulled up. They'll be able to kind of inch in to the next zone and really only have to worry about Fly, who has been there and dealing with Ape Gang this whole time. So Falcons avoided 3 other potential fights they could have been in and put themselves, like you were saying, in a much better spot now, having wrapped around to the north.
But seeing where this zone is pulling, every team minus TSM must feel physical pain once they realize where this zone is going to be pulling. Because yes, the building is still in that next zone that TSM's in. That's great. But with the amount of real estate that you could share by that fence line that you currently see Rock by, Board that's gonna have to inch forward. They'll probably have to fight Rock first, but then you have to consider the teams that will be collapsing over to your northwest side. There's little to no cover. Look at this, over to the south where you see Panic, little to no cover other than some bins and then the ledges of where the fence lines are that you could really play off of. And there's still 14 teams left in this lobby.
Yeah, that was a great overview to give everybody at home a good idea of what you're talking about when it comes to that real estate. It's going to be interesting to see what our squads do here as we look at Unleash, one of those teams that was on the far northwest corner, already making their move in, knowing that the collapse is coming and they need to try and see if they can get in sooner rather than later. They have a pretty clear path ahead of them somehow, and no one has even looked their way as they've pushed in. So that was a huge win for Unleash as they at least make it to the next stage, and we'll have to continue inching in just a bit, and that's where NRG comes into play, and the Kraber in the hands of Timmy is always terrifying.
Especially after the outcome that we saw in the last game now. Okay, we're ready to go for the left, and there's the first win. Victim is gonna be Waltzy. Make it 2, getting another 150. Sykes with the follow-up on the charge rifle, and Gil then looks at Chase. NRG, any team that's in their line of sight is not safe, and with the zone closing in, these squads are feeling pressured.
They didn't know. I mean, they were just standing there out in the open for Timmy, and that's always dangerous. Now you've got Shopify trying to move in behind this wall, see if they can maybe start doing some damage down on Flat on the other side of the circle. NRG back in the middle. How have they fared while this collapse is happening? Well, Unleash is out, 100 Thieves is out, Liquid Alien we're out, Flat is out. NRG survive in their central hold and are going to be able to move in absolutely untouched.
Again? He gets it again. Waltzy just probably healed up too, by the way. Like, just healed up, just finished getting res, feeling like he's got a chance to reposition. Remember, Timmy was inside the middle console, shot him with the Kraber from the other side of that choke, and then now they finally reposition, still gets Krabered again. Oh man, Falcons, raw position, get annihilated and eliminated in 9th place.
That was tough. They were in a really tough spot. Lots of teams knew where they were and they were looking directly at them. Meanwhile, back on the western side, Shopify have moved in to fight against Ape Gang. You've got two very low. Zainu staying alive though and able to clear out Ape Gang. That'll give them some loot and it'll open up their position here on the western edge. They can move forward looking only at Rock.
Also playing off of the little lip, so that way they could heal up. They got all the death boxes to their feet, looking like a graveyard wall. NRG are still the menaces that they are. Charred Rifle, Kraber, follow-up potential, and you have Guild with a triple take. Talk about outside pressure from a distance, and now they close in that distance with the Ash Portal dropping down on top of this squad's heads. Guild now moves up with the rest of NRG, and they are going to be taking out a CTE here from the other side. Oh, trying to go for the trick shot. CTE get eliminated. 6 squads left, and NRG are now replicating what we saw them do in the last game, but this time in a much better position in terms of where they are at.
Dang, they were ready to take that fight in, and it set them up so well on the north side of the zone. Meanwhile, Shopify Rebellion still holding this western edge. They moved in towards ROC like we knew they were going to do. Koi is barely alive, but still holding on. As the Ash, you've got Board in the mix as well, so have to be looking out for that solo. But they've done a really, really good job of owning this end of the circle. Team Orchid now out on the east, and it's just really down to Shopify, TSM, and NRJ, even though you have ROC and Board up there just barely holding on, and they are down low. Board now eliminated.
Yeah, we saw Jet popping up in the feed, holding down the fort for TSM inside this building, holding onto roof because they hear NRG shooting from the other side of that limited fence line that we mentioned before. Shopify also coexisting on the other side of the fence with Rock looking at them.
This is going to be tough. TSM have some really nice height, and literally no one's looking at NRG. Okay, you see a couple shots. They're finally going their way, but they are so far removed from what is about to happen fight-wise that they might have a really solid opportunity for themselves if they can stay below this wall until everything really starts to kick off. Right now, Rock being in the middle, or ROC being in the middle of TSM and Shopify Rebellion's a really tight spot for them to be.
It is important to note that the only teams with a Newcastle on their roster is going to be NRG and Rock. So seeing how they're going to be able to navigate the zone closing in the next 10 seconds is going to be detrimental when the teams are forced to collapse once the zone closes in behind TSM too.
You can see TSM knows that NRG could be problematic, and they're trying to at least keep them away for now because the ring is closing and everyone's going to have to start collapsing. You were talking about who's going to have available cover, where NRG have already used it, so we'll have to see if they're going to use this portal on Ash to maybe get a different position around these squads, as TSM have moved inside the building and will hold it for as long as possible.
Yeah, just as important as the 3 catalysts that are also left within these 4 squads here. And Zainu being able to find Vax, Deeds getting taken out, leaving only 1 for Rock. Only so much you could do here as they're limited in 4th. Now the fight has commenced here between NRG and TSM. This could be the third-party invitation for Shopify to walk up, but NRG want to finish this fight quick.
This was a crazy choice by NRG to move up and take this straight to TSM inside the building, and they've done a really good job of dealing a lot of damage along the way. They lose Timmy, but Sykes and Guild are still alive. TSM eliminated, and it's all down to Shopify to clean this one up. They have a full 3, and they are buried down with the LMG. What a solid play on behalf of Shopify Rebellion as they take home match number 2.
What patient play here, considering the fact that they not only they saw the fight happen in front of them. All right, free invitation to go join the party here. We always love a family function, and they moved up 12 KP on top of the dub. NRG, they did take out TSM, but they lost out on one really early on. We saw he was outside, I believe, and we saw that they were Shopify specifically was able to take out that one member of NRG, and they fell in second place, but still 13 KP, back-to-back double-digit KP.
I mean, not too shabby, not too shabby. And to be fair, Shopify went through like 3 or 4 teams on that Western side to be even able to own that space that they had behind ROC. So that was not an easy road to get where they were, and they played that really, really well. So that was a tough final circle, I think, for all 3 of those squads. TSM decided to bunker down, but just well done on behalf of Shopify Rebellion taking home that win, and that'll feel good for them, Vicky.
Oh yeah, it's Shopify now, you know, being able to see a situation like that when you're stuck against the fence line too. TSM were looking at your heads from the top of the roof, from inside the buildings, and then NRG walk up, distract TSM. That was just the green light for Shopify to clean up what was left.
I am very excited though about the aggression we're seeing out of NRG, even if they don't get the win here. Like you said, multiple back-to-back games with double-digit KP. We'll take a look at the match results so we can see exactly what that means for these squads. But like you said, 12 the way of Shopify for a total of 24, 13 for NRG for 22. I mean, right now, once again, it is the slaying power that's just dominating these lobbies.
Yeah, it's the consistency too, right? Already off the gates within these first 2 games alone. Looking all the way down, TSM, we're holding on to that building from the very beginning, only being able to get 3 KP. But when you're sponging up all this KP in general, looking at NRG, looking at Shopify, you gotta leave some for the rest of us, but there really isn't anything to pick up.
No, and that's gonna feel good for them too, especially when you consider the fact that we're on Broken Moon here. They'll be able to move into Storm Point with a really nice cushion as we get to take a look at some additional stats here. A little bit of a head-to-head between our top 2 squads, and I was really interested in the damage here because it was only a 1 kill difference, and I wanted to see, like you mentioned, we had triple snipers on NRG, and it gets them almost 6k damage, Vicky.
Wow, but Shopify though right behind them too, dealing a good amount of damage themselves, even though that 1 kill difference, that 4.6k damage, highlighting that Shopify were also non-stop fighting to get to the position that they were at, which was a very difficult spot to hold.
Yeah, and we'll get to see what that means for the series results now. NRG pretty comfy at the top there with 40 points overall, but Shopify not too far behind at 2,700. Thieves with 25. So right now, still relatively close, but there is a pretty aggressive drop-off from 1st to 8th instantly for 40 to single digits because, like you were saying, big points bunch.
Oh yeah, and that's with Shopify coming out of the production yard too. So they made their rotate from production yard, not too far away to find themselves in that next zone, but still a really good performance.
Yeah, I mean, really, really fun first 2 matches here. And we've got match number 3 coming up around the corner, though. Before we get into this break, don't forget to send us your questions for Zach Mazer. He'll be joining us after match number 3 at our halftime show. So let us know what you want us to talk to him about when he hangs out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Being called a prodigy isn't easy. The pressure, the expectations. Nah, I'm just kidding. I was born for this. And yeah.
The future is here! Are you ready?
I've got endless determination, a lifetime of practice, and a total lack of media training.
Success, they don't come overnight. Just watch me put up a fight. Locked in, I'm feeling cold as ice.
Let's move.
I don't know how to slow down.
Found my target. Time to say ciao.
Doing work on a holdout. It's looking like it's a blowout.
More eyes on you means less on me.
Putting in audio with top. Making my way up to the top.
Sing it out.
The first in line, the next in line. I can't deny I've been.
I'm in the games, I'm on your screens, and now I'm on billboards? Oh, check this out. Que figata.
It's looking like it's a blowout. Putting in audio with top. Making my way up to the top.
Coming in hot.
The first in line, the next
here, but I do know how it ends. I've heard losing builds character. Let me know how that goes.
Been waiting my whole life for this. Yeah. Been getting so right for this. Hey. Been waiting my whole life.
Hey, ragazzi, we did it.
Pay attention.
Sony InZone, the official monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everyone. Shopify off of a fresh 12-kill game for game number 2 on Broken Moon. 100 Thieves opened up the day, though, with a strong showcase, winning that first game. Now, Genome, we're seeing a lot of these teams, though, sponge up a lot of the KP for a lot of these squads that are trying to find their own place in these final zones.
Yeah, I mean, NRG with 14 and then 13 kills back to back, like, wow, ragazzi. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a celebratory kind of phrase, so I'm just going to chuck it in there. Let's have a look at the final circle as we're going into match 2 here. We see them with the absolute, god loot here. Double reds and a triple take. They've got TSM just banked up in this building. How on earth are you going to get out? That is like a... Was that Guild's catwall? Because if it was, that is a god tier catwall.
It looks like it. Not only, well, no, he actually had it up for there. May have tried to use it to close in the distance, but you can even see Shopify trying to wrap around to see what was going on here. But it was also the amount of bombardment of these nades hurtled in TSM's direction when they were stuck in the corner. Sice was kind of stuck over to the outskirts, frozen just for a little bit. The EMP coming in clutch, and that allowed Shopify to take that dub because they also had that crypto drone too.
Okay, so that means they get the dub, 12 kills. And 100 Thieves go, what's that, first and 12th with 4 points. So they're a little bit behind, but you got a cluster of teams there. Liquid Alienware on 20, 100 Thieves 25. And then we also get the Ash ban. I think there was something like 17 Ashes, something close to that in that last game. So all of a sudden, you've got a lot of these very aggressive options going out, and I think you're going to see teams look to pick up, say, Ballistic, Pathfinder, maybe even Sparrow as a response to him being to Ash being banned out.
Yeah, we've been seeing great utility coming in from the Catalyst too to try to engage on a lot of these fights. Once you're forced to be out in the open ground of Broken Moon on these rotates. Game number 3 now. Looking at the winners of game number 2, Shopify, Clutch, MT, EMP. Koifo now being on the Ballistic here and having the fuse from Zyno.
Love to see Koifel on the Ballistic. If there's one controller player you want to see with the, the Tempest, with the instant gold devotion, sometimes we're even seeing the Ballistic players. Like, have you got a bag near you, Vicky? Because I don't want you throwing up when I say this, but they sometimes run Rampage and Devotion in the Ballistic loadouts.
You know what? I actually love that. I'm embracing that, Genome.
Okay.
If it works,
all right.
you make it rock.
I'm barfing.
You let it sing. You just don't let go of the trigger button. Hopefully, if you got your controller player on it, you just spam aiming down and hip fire at the same time, and you let the magic speak for itself. And aside from all the progress that we've seen thus far in these last 2 games, it is crazy to say as a recap that NRG are currently situated with 40 points, and that's not off of dubs. That's with them securing 27 total kills in just 2 games alone.
Not too shabby. Movistar Koi, however, after getting picked on by the schoolyard bullies, the Falcons last game, still yet to pick up a point. And we're going north for the 3rd time here on Broken Moon. It looks like it will be Alpha Base again. What can Falcons learn from the first time it went to their POI for this particular series. Obviously, it's a bit different when you're trying to sit in a building, you can't really go anywhere, and you've got Alter, you know, just creating void passages everywhere. Those buildings just become death traps, it feels like, when you've got Alter in the lobby on Broken Moon. But now that Alter's been banned out, Vicky, I think Falcons might actually have a better time of holding down the fort here in Alpha Base.
Right, yeah, you don't have to worry about anybody resetting with any of those Void Nexus portals anywhere. They got the opportunity to just really bunker down. Looking at the composition too, Falcons are running the Sparrow, Ballistic, and the Pathfinder, so not really maybe that bunker down potential that we were expecting, more so fragging potential here. So with the fact that the zone's pulling right on top of their POI now, they have to station up inside of these buildings and look at the other squads that have made their rotate now from the north side. Unleash, Team Orchid, as well as CIMJ.
Rock and Sentinels in close proximity, but a cat wall will split them apart. Rock, however, able to go straight through it. Vaxon, of course, unaffected by the Dark Veil, and will take front and center opportunity to get a nice couple of 30-30 shots here, but is traded out.
In our time, Rock having that slight high ground, looking at Sentinels on the other side of that choke. Oh, here evac tower is being called in too. Somewhere close to lobby, I believe that's going to be Envy over by Cliffside, because they want to get away from that congested choke, considering that Apegan are right there alongside TSM on their tail. Sentinels on the outskirts of this next zone though, so for the teams that were able to get that circle beacon, understanding where this zone's going to be pulling over to that north side of Alpha Base, already making their rotate, looking at Sentinels out of Breaker Wharf.
Yeah, it does feel like it potentially could pull even further north in Alpha Base, as you say, just because of how high the circle is in game 3 here. But one of those choke points coming up. This is Villainous overlooking Ape Gang. TSM managed to get themselves out of there and head over to Cliffside, and the other teams potentially pulling up through, say, Breaker Wharf as they try and enter into Alpha Base. But what the Villainous waiting for here? Are they hoping that the team rotates out ahead of them? Okay, they're actually just waiting for an opportune time to hit that survey beacon and get the scan.
Twisted Minds now. See the survey beacon that they're pinging in the distance. Yeah, that Evil Harvester. Are able to get over to the right side. Missile Lock is a ballistic out in the distance. And making their rotate in here. I believe that's going to be Movie Star Koi that are over to their south side, also trying to get that survey beacon. Yep, they see them right over there. Separated just a bit though. They can try to isolate this team because there is nobody waiting for them to gatekeep them on this side of zone.
Yet split without one of their players at the moment, presumably just searching for the old crafter respawn beacon combo, but Twisted Minds really do want to grab as many of the kills as they can. Looks like Jelly will be the sacrificial lamb. Or will he? Takes Rook down, and he's desperately just trying to get the thirst because he knows he's probably going to die, but he's fine with that because his teammate is well away, close to getting the res in Atmo himself, so he just wants to secure that 1 KP. Really actually enjoyed that play there from Jelly. Kind of smart.
Yeah, we take those because that one straggler is going to now approach Bionomics where there's a replicator and a survey beacon too if they haven't hit that already. So getting some information while also being able to get that res, it will slow down your rotate because Rock is another team that are still playing on the outskirts of that next zone since they're playing objective for the Evil Harvester too. You see more of the action though continue on. Very similar look to game number 1, right? Slower at the very beginning because you know a lot of these teams have been able to find their place in these buildings to coexist. So you could expect a lot of these squads to collapse once the zone ends up pulling away from some of these buildings, if it does.
Continues to go north. So as you were saying, because it is just so far up the top of the map right now, we are expecting it to pull in a fairly consistent direction, maybe even for one more pull before it starts to get a little crazy. But Falcons have actually read this one, so they're pretty high up. They're not sort of sitting in one of the more central buildings, and that's when they sort of ran afoul of too many other teams at once when they were trying to sit on the sort of landing dock in the middle of Alpha Base in game 1.
We're taking the portal now. Taking this building here too. Nice clearance now. Finding this spot. just in the meantime, getting away to see where Shopify are going to be approaching from the middle part of quarantine zone. FURIA also by the choke, being on the crypto, seeing which squads are within the vicinity here, because if either of these three squads do try to contest that southern choke by cliffside, you know that Villainous are going to be waiting to gatekeep you. Oh, they got the res here too. Movie Star Koi managed to get Jelly and Fun right back in the game.
Yeah, it makes sense with how far their third was from Twisted Minds when Jelly sacrificed himself. And I mean, hey, they went from 0 to 1, so I'm sure they were happy just to get that kill and say, hey, we're on the board. Let's keep it rolling from here. FURIA coming in off the top of quarantine zone here as well. So Shopify Rebellion always looking for early fights. They're the team that will always back themselves in a fight, no matter who the opposing team is. But it looks like FURIA don't want it. They're out, they're about. Not sure if it was potentially a crypto drone scout that gave them that info and said, maybe next time.
And that's what they were doing. They were trying to get information at the teams that were over to their south side. So after getting what they needed, now rotating over to the north side, they know that there's going to be roughly 3 squads within the east side of that choke.
Let's transfer to that spot.
Shopify still looking at Villainous, really wanting to go through either this choke or honestly wrapping around here can help benefit them, because if they do take this choke, Rock and Board are also within the area to try to third party that once they have to rotate into that next zone.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this fight almost has to happen here. Rock kind of want it. They could back off or don't really have that option. They kind of have to go through them. And in the meantime, Twisted Minds are only getting closer to both of these teams.
Now calling it quits though, moving over to their north side, knowing that Board are going to be right behind them, and after getting the respawn and reset, Movie Star Koi will be approaching from the complete east side of that next zone. Shopify have wrapped around though, seeing that Rock is right there too. They have been able to reset. You get the scan off the crypto drone and the EMP to try to start this fight.
Yeah, you see Koi will slide in. He wants to use that opportunity, that window that is afforded him by the EMP getting locked onto the other team, but unfortunately can't find a target. So purple armor or no, Shopify have to wait a little bit longer to sate their bloodthirst.
Well, that's what they wanted. They wanted to see which other teams too were around them here. Didn't want to take that fight after seeing that Villainous were right next to them, and they could have just 3P'd them instead. Mythic Bin, by the way, being spawned over by Stasis Array, where they know that Rock, Villainous, and Shopify are at. So while closing the gap, Movie Star Koi know that that's going to get up very hot very shortly here. Shopify do find some cover from inside the building.
Yeah, so main building in Stasis Array. Yeah, nice little peek. It's like that bullet almost curved over the hill to grant him the 130 damage there. Not that he needs it for the armor upgrades. So literally just looking for kills and or some potential opportunities to help them rotate further. But what they've done really by scaring those other teams off there with the 130s, Vicky, is opened up the Mythic Bin access for themselves, which did actually spawn in Stasis Array.
Huge opportunity for loot here for Shopify. How are they going to get out is the question, with TSM holding the choke, exiting out of Stasis Array, over by that zipline building. And this zone completely pulling to the north side, a little different than what we saw in that first game. I believe they pulled way more south of Alpha Base, so this one being on top of Falcons and Unleashed Sentinels, now playing off the positioning that we previously had seen Team Liquid, now as they hold that northern cliffside by the fence line. 100 Thieves also taking their time to rotate into that choke, because Envy have been holding those zipline buildings. Twisted Nines now getting involved here. Enemy's got that motor load ready to go. Playing on the outskirts, looking at Rock.
30 seconds. Rock don't have a lot of time to work their way out of this puzzle that Twisted Minds have laid down in front of them. You could see Source there actually just trying to port it out for Rock, and he might actually be able to successfully do that all the way to cliffside. And yep, there you go. His teammates will take the port after him, and they will perhaps avoid this fight, unlike Board here, who are not able to get out of the clutches of Shopify.
You get a Devo, you get a Devo, everyone gets a Devo. They're making their way to hug right alongside the P20s. now as we see Panic. Tempest unleashed now. Holding onto that Devo, looking at every direction. Sparrow ult 2. Dupe is able to get that knock. 18 squads left while they hold the second floor of this building. This was them holding that zipline building. Twisted Minds now looking at them. Villainous and Shopify Rock. All these squads, 5 squads now rotating through the choke alone as the zone closes in.
Okay. Do they go through the veil or do they go through the zone? He chooses the darkness. But Zainu doesn't mind at all. He will actually get in there with 1 tick of health left available to him. Just dodging enough shots to potentially get the med kit off here.
EMP now. Out TSM instead, looking at Energy, forcing them to back off. That's what they needed now. Energy forced to take the portal back, but they're not in the fear just yet. TSM also have to worry about Shopify over to the right side. 8 Gang 2 over to the north. Shopify now getting involved with a huge nade coming in from Koi to clean out that team. 15 squads now left, but in the distance, having to be careful. He does have some cover over by the lip of that cliff.
Okay, boom, up and running again. TSM Rock, plenty of teams behind them if Shopify want to play for the KP, but the road ahead is a lot harder, Vicky. SimJ, Furia, NRG, Team Orchid. There are a very awkward amount of teams between them and the zone right now. It's going to be a rough one if Shopify don't have an indestructible evac tower in their backpacks.
Indestructible, that's the key word out here. You know, everyone with these depots are going to be shooting that down. With the drone getting the information, MT turns around, Panic slides in with a Devo of his own. Koi now with the R9, huge shots here. He can't clutch it out though. Jen now slides in on the other side. Another huge nade coming in from Zainu. He's so consistent with these nades being on that fuse. He gets a quick shield swap.
Hold
Turning around though with 5 KP though. This is doable. He's got the triple take too.
Oh no, okay. Manages to get the down onto Koi there. But I don't know if they realize it's just a solo behind, right? This is literally just Deeds. Zainu needs to take this Chal. He has to win it so that he can get his teammates back into this. Oh my God, does he even have time to res empty? He doesn't, he just has to go.
He has to leave. The zone's closing in now. Let's also with that Kraber shot in the feed. You know that Zainu shaking hands real quick with Deeds. Thank you very much for your contribution right there. They needed that help to stay alive in this fight. FURIA now. 11 squads left. Gonna try to get that shield swap. See the mother load 2 right on top of this. Zainu solo now moving in. Literally dancing on the other side with Envy. FURIA are now looking at the solo that is Shopify. Drop is now taking away their attention with Envy just pinching FURIA alongside the solo that is Shopify.
Oh, FURIA will be furious if they can't get out of this situation with this single griefer from Zainu who has just been taken out as well. But it's mostly Envy coming from the east side of the zone who have just opened up the angles and opened up the skulls of FURIA. All 3 of them now dead and buried.
Man, Falcons are looking at FURIA. The one solo Zainu was looking at FURIA. Envy then clean them up. What a sandwich. CTE get eliminated. 8 squads up. Envy get exactly the loot that they needed too, because they were holding this position very early on. So denying themselves the opportunity to get the loot that they may have needed. Now they are able to get it. NRG here too. A little slower. Timmy still on blue Evo.
So that big rock that Envy were just pinging, the one to the left of your screen now that Timmy was looking at, that's where the zone will be ending. Sentinels are on the back side of it. Smart position by them. And then 100 Thieves are sitting on the fence in front of it. So essentially every other team's going to be on the outside looking in, except for Falcons, I guess, who have been actually showing a lot of presence and able to take the entire building to themselves. Up until now, at the very least, because they have been spreading out their forces and making sure essentially one of each of the Falcons members is looking at each door and just denying people entry to this building.
Good first play here. Over by the low ground in so many different angles. Misses out on another Kraber shot. Looks fortunate to reposition with the rest of his team though. Ambino literally was one shot too. Rest of Envy now over on the high ground behind this Newcastle wall. Zone closing in. So many of these teams Unleashed still outside of zone. Team Orchid still outside of zone on the outskirts of this building. 100 Thieves still playing by the fence line. And as you mentioned, Sentinels being on that cliffside before Energy now make their move. But they have to look behind them. They didn't call it out. They knew that Flat were right there too. Flat now having to navigate away now, seeing that they couldn't get the jump completely. But Energy being formed now are going to be able to reset with shield back.
With Shopify Rebellion out, NRG are looking to extend their lead on the rest of the lobby, picking up to 46 points as we end near the end of Broken Moon. Luxford now the only one left alive as he tries to get a shield swap out of this. You can see NRG making mincemeat of his teammates, and as the wireframe shows, Guild gets so close to doing that himself, but I think it was a Kraber from up on high that stops it.
And they're here shooting, and guess who pokes their faces? Falcons trying to take advantage of the opportunity. Zero does get that knock, but they aren't giving up that space here. They want to stay inside this building until this next zone starts closing in. Catwall also already used up here, as Luxford is still alive for Team Orchid.
Wouldn't be an Apex lobby without a few rats scurrying around, and it's going to be Luxford this time. I believe every other team is full. 5 squads, 16 players. No, that can't be right. There's someone else missing from the lobby here at some point. Either way, oh, there's 2 members of Team Awkward. That's why. Either way, we've got Envy playing underneath. Falcons now starting to have to conceptualize their exit from the building. You can see teams putting cat spikes in front of them, but Envy's directly on top of them. So Falcons, while they look for these kills outside, are very worried about Team Envy.
For free, they were able to look at them through the windows there too. Kraber in hand with Zero, as we've seen already before. The catwall over to the right side. We saw NRG get taken out, as well as the Orchid. Is Envy neighboring Falcons though before trying to get out? Seeing that they have to now with the zone closing in, actually neighboring the building. Envy get eliminated, Zero gets out, so does Waltzy. And Hal is literally one shot, huge Kraber shot. Just buy some time, but they need to do the same thing looking at 100 Thieves. Shields up here quickly for Zero. He gets hit with the Sentinel shot, and now is forced to pop the shield back by the fence line.
Waltzy's not in the drone any longer. Unleashed on the Sparrow pick. Him and Hal come out to try and deal with the rest of the lobby here. 100 Thieves, Phony and Vertals take an ill-advised fight, but they do down Waltzy, which opens things up for Sentinels to win.
Now they just walk up, and it's just a cleanup for Sentinels on the timing on another third-party endgame here for game number 3. The patience paying off for Sentinels to hold onto that cliffside.
Sentinels played from behind that rock for quite some time there, honestly. They were holding the backside of that. They'd absolutely read that zone like a book, and they come up with the goods in the end. I think it was honestly also smart for Falcons there to just go to play for second. They knew that the zone really belonged to Sentinels at that point, and putting their foes, the 100 Thieves, in the ground is something that they can, I'm sure they'll be having a little bit of a laugh back in their team channel about.
Yeah, and honestly, Sentinels had to make their rotate from Divide. So they went all the way over from the east side of the map, wrapping around to the north side before finding themselves over by Alpha Base. Bringing back Glitter coming in here after the action that we just saw go down within our game that we casted in our 3rd game now currently. These third parties to end these games, though, have been very detrimental to secure those extra 12 KP points for first.
Every single time. And we've kind of been wondering, is there going to be a team that's able to get that back-to-back win in these situations? And right now, just between where the zones have been, specifically with the space that's available, it's been really, really tough for these squads. But we are getting consistency in the sense that we're seeing teams, at least in the top 3, top 5, pretty frequently now. Sentinels up here with a win. So that's going to get them an additional 15 points, with the KP being so low because Falcons decided to pop off. Even Shopify pop off with 11 points, even though they're not getting the placement points. They decided to go on a tear after we see them able to take home a win. So I'm liking what we're seeing out of the region so far right now, Gino.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there were 4 or 5 teams roaming around on that south side of the zone, and Shopify managed to pick up the bulk of the kills down there. And Broken Moon, known for its perilous chokes, they claim Shopify on the way in, but, you know, not before they have just managed to juice as many points as they possibly can up until that point. So if you have like a rotation that you think is going to be tough, you know, you have to identify your win condition, your best possible outcome for the game, and Shopify have absolutely done that here in game 3.
Yeah, 100%. Being able to find the points where you can, like you're saying, is always super important as we get to take a look at the top performances here as well. And no surprise after the performance we just saw out of Falcons that we're getting Waltzy up here with 7 kills and 0 with those 4 assists. But I am happy to see Envy Skittlecakes up here as well, Vicky.
Yeah, being able to get 3 KP over 1.2, or rather 2,000 damage done here, but still, even on the Newcastle too, you'd love to see it. As well as you take a look at the series results, NRG are still leading the pack, but didn't have that explosive game that we saw within the first 2 games. Had, I believe, only 4 KP after that 3rd game, so that's allowed the rest of the pack to try to catch up.
Yeah, definitely everyone is within striking distance now. You can see that Orchid's moved up in there. 100 Thieves have been really consistent, finding themselves now in that top 3. So we've got a pretty good half of our series here so far, and we'll see if anything changes when we change maps. But of course, before we get into it, it's time for our halftime break, and we've been saying it a couple times. We have Zach Mazer waiting in the wings to come hang out with us here to chat about our matches so far. So Zach, bring him in. Welcome. Excited to have you hanging out with us here today. How are you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
We're great. Okay, we're great. We've got some good matches here that have happened so far.
Yeah.
So first of all, give me your thoughts on matches 1 through 3.
Okay, well, I hope I get these zones tomorrow. I'm the same POI as Falcons. I'm Alpha Base, and I am praying to the zone gods that we get the same zones tomorrow. That's what I need.
Oh,
Fair.
come on. As if you're not in cahoots with the zone god already considering what happened in the first couple of Pro League days.
Me and him go way back.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things I want to ask you about before we start getting into our hot takes here in a second, just give me your thoughts overall on, we've seen a lot of roster shakeups now, especially in EMEA, but also in Americas. Do you feel like these roster changes right now, for what we're seeing, are starting to look like they were beneficial for these teams?
We're definitely gonna have to give it a little bit more time, because in Apex we really often see like honeymoon phases and stuff like that. And while some rosters may be hot right now, let's see where they are in 2-3 months, because Pro League matters a lot, but as we all know, mid-season playoff matters a lot more. So I think it's really important that we look at teams' form going into that. But yes, as of right now, teams like NRG who made changes, they're looking really strong. 100 Thieves, obviously, they're looking really good. Falcons just had a pop-off game that like saves their day because they were struggling. So I don't know. Well, we'll see. We got to give it a little bit more time. But yeah, some of these roster changes are starting to seem smart.
I love that. I love that. And I agree. Vicky?
Yeah, honestly, looking at what happened in that 3rd game, what was unfortunate was that Liquid in game number 1 predicted the same zone we saw in game number 3, except Liquid fell first in the entire lobby. On that rotate too, holding that cliffside. What do you think about Broken Moon's zone pools in general? You talk about your homies with the zone pooler. Well, what do you think about what we've seen thus far? I've been seeing some scrims, and I was wondering, I saw at one point, one day there was a lot of like southeastern zones. Now we're getting a bunch of alpha base, including what we had seen within EMEA. What are your thoughts on that?
So something in Apex that we see really often is like zone metas, right? Where like on World's Edge, we'll see a bunch of climatizer zones, and then we'll see a bunch of lava siphon zones, and like they just seem to cluster in similar areas of the map really often, especially on ALGS days. We don't see a lot of variation. So we get game 1 today, alpha base. It pulls out a little bit further than that original building. Yeah, you see Liquid die. But, game 3, alpha base again. I'm pretty sure Liquid did have a good game there, but maybe I'm misremembering. And then game 2, core, right? So we're seeing a lot of zones on the same side of the map. That's a big bummer for people like Atmo Station, but it's obviously great for people like Falcons, right? So I don't know. It's just kind of how it works. I'm not the biggest fan of Broken Moon as far as that goes. I like it. I think it's a good map, but I don't know if it's competitive ready yet.
Interesting. Look, little bit of a change of pace. Zach, I don't know anyone who's tuned into your streams or Zero streams. Other people will know that you guys are actually living in the same house at the moment, which is kind of fun, right? Like it brings us back to like the roots of esports, where you had like 10 Korean guys in a StarCraft house or something living together, and just grinding the game day in, day out. Have you got any like fun stories to tell us about that, or like how that's kind of been living with a bunch of other Apex pros that aren't even necessarily on the same team?
It's fun. It's also heartbreaking at the same time. Like, I am competing against them at the end of the day. So like, the main broadcast has a 10-minute delay, but I'm sitting on the couch watching the game. So like, I know Falcons had a great game 10 minutes in the future, and then I have to painfully sit there and watch it. And it's like, I want to see my friends do good, but I also want to do better than them in Pro League. So it's like, but it's all fun at the end of the day. Yeah, we have a lot of laughs. We have a lot of memories. They're good guys. It's fun. I mean, I'm not sure if you heard him, but literally as you asked that question, he walked past my room and yelled something. So we all like razz each other. We all mess with each other, and it's nice living with I live with Waltzy, Zero, Slayer, who's my teammate, and then Kyle, who's the coach of Falcons. And it's
never been tempted to rip out an Ethernet cable.
Yeah. So. Yeah, let's just say there's a story behind that. Let's just say there's some more behind that conversation.
Oh, I was just kidding. That was just theory crafting, but okay, all right. We'll hear that one on stream later.
Yeah,
I love it.
There's some lore behind that.
The chat is going to be ready for that later on, okay? But I'm sure we can sit here and yap with you all day, but we've got to dive into our hot takes, okay? And I feel like we're ready now after we've already started this conversation. So let's dive into it. Vicky, I want to start with you today for your hot takes, all right? Tell me about this here. What you got?
Yeah, so Zach already knows I bet you anything, like just my thought process with the way I approach certain things in Apex. And personally, my hot take here is that I would love to see roster locks per split, where you could change your roster only before the start of each individual split, which would allow teams to go through team synergy, couple therapy, help fans follow their favorite team better. It helps with fan loyalty, contributes to seeing like personal development. But I'm just saying, like, couple counseling, you know what I mean? Get these teams, figure out what the problem is. It's really easy, I feel like, in a team-based game to be absolved of blame, putting whatever goes wrong onto something or somebody else, rather than taking on what happened and trying to work through it. I really love to see teams stick together and work through more problems. I mean, we even have players going back to old former teams. I'm thinking here like Yanya going right back to Liquid, feeling way more comfortable within that zone. Even if they weren't doing so well by the tail end before Yanya left, seeing what these teams could do, in my opinion, I feel like they should just thug it out, see what's going on, and figure out what they need to iron out.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, I think if you have to work on a team in any sort of high-stress competitive environment, I think absolutely counseling would be helpful for a lot of these squads. So maybe that's pretty mild. I think that's actually helpful.
I think some of their coaches are already full-time counselors, as far as I understand it.
Definitely.
I think a lot of people are going to agree with you on this one here, Vicky. Now, Osak, I'm excited to hear what you got. So give it to me. What is your hot take for today?
All right, my hot take for today is that I think ranked is super important for every single video game out there that's competitive. And I think that ranked should be an introduction to competitive. So like, when we watch ALGS as casuals, we're like, dude, like this is awesome. Watching Zero hit these Kraber shots. Like I want to hop in. I want to experience an endgame. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I would love to see an environment where ranked somewhat emulates what competitive looks like. That way everyone can get that feel, and then pros can practice it, right? So I'm big on that. I think ranked shouldn't be just like a participation award system where you like naturally rank up if you play. I think it should totally reward the people who put in the time and the effort and have that skill level to pop off and get to the top. But I don't want to just be too negative. I'm really excited for the future, and I'm really optimistic about the new dev team that we got. And I think that they're going to be able to achieve that coming up here.
All right.
Yep.
All right,
I don't want to be too negative, man. I don't want to be too negative, but like, I don't know. Ranked is important, man.
That's not negative. Yeah.
I think it's super important. I've been advocating for this for a long time. I would like, I'd say go even further, right? Have like an in-game tournament where you could actually like 100% emulate Pro League and have legend bans, POI drafts, all that kind of stuff. Like we've seen other games do it in the past. I reckon that'd be a sick addition to Apex. I love that take, Zach.
Yeah, I think the Apex community would really love to do something like that, where they could hop on with their friends from work and like go through a ban system and get to play, a couple games. Even if they don't do great, I'm sure they'd love to experience it, right?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are my friends from work. You wanna hop on and do that, or?
Wait, when was that? What was the date? What were you asking to do that? I feel like I might have a thing. I'm not sure.
Damn.
Oh, I
goodness.
can't hear you. I think we're breaking up. Oh no.
Oh man, dude, they're doing you so dirty right now. It's insane. Oh my gosh.
Fine,
Listen, it's
fine.
King. He's Australian.
I'm going
There's
back to
King.
APAC, man. I'm going back to APAC. Whatever.
It's all right. I get it, dude. I live with
All right.
3 of them. It's unreal.
All right, now before we let you go here, Zach, we've got one more thing we want to do. We asked chat earlier on in the show to send in some questions to give you that they wanted to hear your answer on. So we're going to pull this up here, okay? And they want to know what causes mazer moments and what can players do to prevent them from happening.
This is a good question. This is actually a good question. I'm not rolling my eyes in the sense of like it's, oh, here we go, mazer moment again. No, it's like, this is a good question. There's a lot behind this. So obviously mazer moments are like the worst thing that can possibly happen majority of the time. And what's happening in those moments is you're just doing too much too fast. You got to slow down. You got to make more calculated decisions. And what normally causes all that, you're panicking, right? So how can you prevent it is you just have to make sure you're like locked in, got to make sure you're focused on your breathing. You just can't panic. No matter how dire the situation gets, don't panic and force a play, because that's when, it hits the fan. So as long as you can stay calm and stay collected and try to make a calculated play, it will most likely not end up a mazer moment. Where sometimes, my emotions get the best of me and I panic and I'm like, shit, I got to do something. And then we end up TPing into zone 7, right? So here we go.
Listen, I think that's just solid life advice though, okay? Trying to maintain a level head in high stress situations, period, is important. So Zach, thank you so much for jumping on and hanging out with us. That was a very fun halftime show. It's always a pleasure to have you chatting with us. I'm sure we'll be speaking again soon. For now, we're going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Always nice to be able to chat with Zach. I think we're going to be sending you away here in just a moment as well. Vicky, enjoy your rest. Genome and I are going to get everybody ready to hop into match number 4. So we'll say goodbye to Vicky for now as well. And Genome, it's time to swap things over to Stormpoint. We had our broken moon moments, and now it's time to see what Stormpoint can bring to the table.
Oh, all right, let's get it. Looks like game is getting underway. So yeah, I'm keen, Glitter. I feel like you've
Are you alive?
I am. It's been, I can't even tell you how long a day it's been for me, but I am here for it, man. Apex all day, every day.
Well, we're just getting straight into the action too. We're jumping on board with Sentinels over at Mill, seeing what they're going to be able to do here, as they are coming fresh off of a win, even though we've now swapped into a different map. I think Sentinels was a team that I had some questions about heading into the season, and I like that I'm seeing right now that I know it's early, and even Zach was saying, we need to give all these new rosters some time. And obviously Sentinels, the new name. We talked about that, one of the org changes, but I'm liking what we're getting out of the team right now.
Yeah, what were the questions?
Are they going to be able to meet the level of competition? I think the Open actually started creating a lot of storylines, Genome, based around, are the established teams that much better than what we're seeing coming out of some of these challenger circuits? Because we had so many of our newer squads showing up and showing out, and I want to see what newer faces can do overall in this entire competition.
Yeah, it's super cool. We're getting to see that from Sentinels. Well played. I thought it might catch you off guard with that one there, but that was honestly a pretty good response. So, Sentinels. Sentinels taking the Trident rotation in here. Just to grab the, a beacon scan in on the way. They see that no one's over at Cito. I love this. There's an Evo Harvester. There's a ring console over there because they didn't have a ring console spawning in at Mill this time. So they actually take that opportunity to get a whole bunch of Evo and information. And considering they're in the Trident, that doesn't actually cost them a lot of priority into the zone, right? So honestly, heads up play from these guys. Was listening to Riley a little bit on, he appeared on the Privacy podcast this week, and I was like, wow, this guy's actually got a pretty good head on his shoulders. Like, genuinely seem to understand the game to a degree that you don't often see from people who have just recently graduated from the Challenger circuit. So I think there's some potential here, and I think this could have been a good pickup for Sentinels, who's obviously a big org who, wants a team that's doing well.
And that's, another good shout out to Privacy's podcast as well. If you guys are looking to kind of get more in depth in the inner workings of whether that's teams or individuals or the game in general, being able to kind of check out the additional content that all of our amazing creators in the community are putting on when it's not ALGS days is a really, really great way to do that. So love the little nod there to Privacy's podcast, as well as we get to see Team Orchid now wrapping around, trying to move their way in towards the circle. They're going to be in a little bit of a pinch here if they go through the choke. They're going to be running into at least 1 or 2 squads. They just ran away from the 100 Thieves side of things, so they're going to be backing off and reassessing here.
We see Crypto, I think it was, as the most picked lobby in the Legend. That said, we're getting a little bit more diversity right now. You can see, previously we were up at like sort of 90, 85% pick rates. Now we've moved it down to 65, but of course that does mean that Crypto, with singularly the most picks in the lobby, will be removed for game 5 and 6.
TSM finding themselves in a back and forth already with Twisted Minds down to 2 on TSM. Panic is out, and they have to try to survive. Jet and Dupe doing whatever they can here to avoid Albrelelli, who does get knocked. So a little back and forth here, give them an opportunity to get reset. Panic back up on his feet, and they'll back off, give themselves an opportunity to heal.
My God, he pulled him straight out of the concrete there.
I saw that.
Man's got he's got the cement feet. They're trying to sink him.
Envy trying to see what they can do with limited coverage. See, they've already taken some damage to their shields. Going to need to get themselves healed back up, as well as they're looking down the barrel of potentially both Movie Star Koi and CIMJ. So they know that they've got some teams that will be moving through this western side of the circle that they're going to be seeing if they can maybe gatekeep just a little bit in this nut building.
Yeah, look, I mean, with a bunch of teams sitting over at Echo HQ, I do have to wonder if teams have read this correctly as most likely a coastal camp zone, right? I don't think it'll pull back up to Pylon, but, anything kind of can happen with the zones these days. But the fact that we've got Villainous, 8 Gang, CTE over there, 100 Thieves and Team Orchid playing from like the Armory and further along towards Devastated Coast, this does seem a little weird that we've only got 2 to 3 teams sitting around coastal camp right now, and that does seem to be the most likely endpoint.
And that's a good shout, because that could potentially prove rough as they have to move in. Meanwhile, NRG jumping on Maden and instantly watching Aguades get taken out by Sykes with that Devo. Rough spot there to be caught out. And looks like Liquid Alien, we're gonna see if they can maybe back off, try to survive so that they can at least get a reset going. But NRG are being very annoying right now.
So you can see Guild opting for the Rampage in the Sling as opposed to the Devo. Some people, we were talking before about how sometimes they'll pick up both, but in this instance, opting for the Rampage, most likely because of the utility it provides you in being able to shoot people off doors. The fact that a charged up Rampage destroys doors just has incredible utility at some really clutch moments.
Look, we can see exactly what you were just mentioning there now that we've got a chance to take a look at this map view. Just how many squads are just a smidge too far east, really betting on where this next zone's going to be shifting. And you can see a move, a wave of teams are starting to kind of get out of there and shrink down to where FURIA has been holding since the beginning. They got in here early, they got themselves some real estate, and now everyone's going to be moving and trying to wonder, where are they going to go? Where do they want to hold? You can see just how many crypto drones are out right now trying to figure out this information.
Let's go fly a kite. They're everywhere. What? Hold up. Why don't we have skins for the crypto drone? Like, why can't I get like a really cool like kite skin for my crypto drone?
Write it down.
All right. You know what? Reindeer's got a skin in the game right now. I want, like, if I ever get one, I want it to be a crypto drone skin. There you go.
I love that for you. I love that.
And I wanted to play that song when you like do like the inspect animation.
That would be so trolly. But one of the teams that your potential kite drone could be seeing is Ape Gang. They've also managed to get dead center alongside FURIA and got themselves a little bit of cover here.
Okay, because now I'm imagining someone like in a Pro League match sitting invisible in the middle of zone, and everyone else could just hear the song playing while they can't find the crypto player.
I'm here for it as Falcons make a move in right now. Chasing down some KPJ out, chase out, CTE fully eliminated. Falcons continuing on this tear, and they are on that eastern edge that you had mentioned with a lot of those teams that had clustered up. Villainous is also in their area, 100 Thieves over there as well. So it looks like they were able to at least get this one area of Echo for themselves, and now they can kind of move through and see if they want to continue their aggression. Meanwhile, Envy in a real tough spot.
Yeah, they look like they're not long for this world, honestly. They yeah, all three of them literally sitting on the same pixel because they know if they move a step either way, other teams are going to go for them. That is an interesting play. They try and take the Trident with about 30 collective health. Unlikely to work.
That was tough. They didn't have too many options for recourse there. Maybe could have played behind the Trident instead of taking it and giving themselves maybe a little bit more time to get a cell or something off. But Sentinels were really being aggressive there, knowing they needed to clear out Envy. So that was a rock in a hard place there. But Sentinels able to clear them out, get some extra loot, and now they're going to be moving forward into the next ring to see if they can find a bit of safe space. Also, PK here available and grabbed, or almost grabbed here for Carter.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to go for it. I thought he was
check where it was, and then he's accidentally placed the portal a little too close to the care package, or maybe he wanted to wait. Who knows? Either way, I think we've seen what the sort of the game plan was there for those teams going over to Echo HQ. We saw that Falcons actually had popped the ring console and realized that it was a devastating, a coastal camp zone. But rather than playing for a position, they're going to wait, pop that ring console, and then try and make a later play for it with slightly more information. The thing that just weirds me out a bit, Glitter, is like coastal camp zones tend to be quite predictable, and it's not like a bigger POI where it can kind of go from one corner to the other, and having that information is really going to give you a massive advantage. Like in coastal camp, it feels like there's just a couple of good spots, maybe play the sniper tower, and it doesn't matter where the zone pulls, you will be fine if you get there before other people.
Well, you're talking about trying to get there before other people. NRG finding themselves in the water, deciding to dip with that Trident. Meanwhile, Liquid Alienware have been stuck on the northern end this entire time. They are down to just one. Aguardes is not long for this world. They are eliminated, but they're surrounded by flat rock and board. This is absolute chaos up here, trying to get through these fences. This choke is causing so much back and forth. Flat finding themselves in a back and forth now with ROCS. Board is kind of backed off and seeing if they can wait for a third-party opportunity. Will they be able to get this res? It's gonna be rough for them.
Well, try and get the res. Rock coming in with the respawn. You can see them just tanking zone damage, potentially trying to get the med kits or something off at the same time, if they've even got that kind of med economy for them. All these guys, the zone is about to start closing. They need to run.
I'm surprised that Board stuck around this long, and now you can see they are finally deciding to back off. Like you said, that timer ticking down for the ring closing. They decide that they want to get somewhere a lot safer. See if that ends up working out for them or not. Meanwhile, TSM moving in. Flat have moved in. ROC also survived, so that fight that was going on in the north has now ended. But Movie Star Koi is now going back and forth with Twisted Minds.
Yeah, Shopify Rebellion, they got the info that all these teams are coming in though, so they pick up a couple of very quick KP onto Flat. Now they want more glitter. There's potential for them to get both Rock and Board if they can push this even faster. Falcons go down at the hands of Villainous. That's not something that I can tell you Zach's definitely hearing about that one in the other room.
I do not know what just happened there, but that was a tough spot on the eastern side to go out. Meanwhile, Shopify, you thought they might be able to survive between ROC and Board and Twisted Minds. They end up going down, but this fight got worse when TSM stepped in. You've got so much chaos over here still up in the north that right now it is not looking good. Shopify out as ROC have moved up to clear them, but they still have to worry about a solo on Board who's in the general vicinity, and TSM, who I think have decided to back off for just a second, which will afford the opportunity to Rock to get that heal off. And you could see the solo I was talking about for Board, just hiding.
He was
right
sitting
here.
there the whole time, just watching them take down MT. They've got a crypto drone, by the way, so there is a chance that they spot him out should that get the scan on him. Oh dear. Okay, 100 Thieves, they're on the northeastern side of this zone. They might want to go down towards Villainous. They might just want to give it a straight shot towards the coastal camp. Let's have a listen in with 100 Thieves and see how they approach this next rotation.
You want to piece off fence or you crypto first?
Yes, it's a duo in there. It's a duo in there.
You want to do it now? Fuse ult now?
I'm trying to nade. Yes. I'll sky nade. I'm trying to nade him. I'm fuse ult. I'm ulting.
Holding left.
I'm swinging.
With you, Jen.
Okay. That's all you. What's wrong? Dead. Sure, there's another team behind him. There's another team. I'm ready. Reset up. You can walk in. Reset on me. We go walk in.
Backing up.
Help. I can't leave.
At the back. I can't cover him.
60 on one. Shoot me. Diving.
One's dead. 70 another. Outside.
I killed that one. Quick, cracked him. Who's last guy?
One more.
Last guy.
Yep.
Okay. He's coming in zone. You can kill him. He's coming in zone.
Yep.
He's healing. He's popping back. He's coming in back. Battered. He battered. Shoot, don't die.
One shot.
Okay. Nice. Walk in.
I did one.
Then go left. You have to go left after that bat. Yeah, you have to go left. Left. Nice.
Jen Burton almost single-handedly takes down ROC, but his teammates, I don't know if they didn't believe in him, they don't back him up, but Verhulst and Phony there, you see them take way too long to turn around in what would have been an easily winnable fight. And unfortunately, without their teammates holding their hands, it's 100 Thieves going down earlier in this match than they should have.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a really rough spot. And then after that happens, TSM, who had backed off from that fight, eventually go down themselves. Villainous have been doing well on the eastern side of this ring, and a lot of these squads that were begging for it being just a scotch farther north will eventually have to move as well, and that's where we're going to see another round of chaos. Meanwhile, FURIA, a team that moved in very early on and claimed this position alongside Unleash, takes out Unleash and give themselves a little bit of breathing room, but because of all the noise, CIMJ moving in, Sentinels also in the vicinity. FURIA down to 2, while Sentinels are trying to heal up and keep themselves alive here with this PK, which they did eventually get, Gino.
Oh, glad he worked out which way the portal goes. Team Orchid They're on the lower ground, by the way, so you can see every other team is in the compound up the top. It's Team Orchid who are playing out near the sea, and that's where the zone is going. So teams starting to look for any scant amount of cover, just playing in these corners behind the trees. Some very, very low profile rocks that they'll have to try and sit behind to make this last circle work for them.
That Sentinels move up and over Movie Star Koi. That was great. Great little portal there. Got themselves a better position here. Movie Star Koi going to have to really pay attention to what's going on above, because some of these squads are going to be moving straight down on top of them. And as I say that, you see FURIA starting to move their direction. Sentinels also over there, and now they are in a bit of a back and forth. Sentinels down to 2. Riley knocked, as we see possibly the battery being hopped. The res happening first, that PK giving enough space to make that happen, and Movie Star Koi are about to be moved in on.
Yep, you see the Watson heal perk there, helping them out with the res, and it's just enough as they move up into 5th place. NRG, who have been dominating in this lobby, are trying to clear out the high ground. Come on, quickly, need to get that res on Timmy. Luckily for them, everyone else has made the move down to the low ground now. So you got Villainous and Sentinels. Surely their standoff will come to an end soon, and then I think it'll be up between the winner of that versus Team Orchid and NRG on the high ground. Luxford with the Sculpey shots.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough drop down there for NRG. You can see Team Orchid have been waiting for this moment. They've spread out nicely. They've got some good off angles, and Sentinels are eliminated, which will open up an opportunity for NRG to drop down with a little bit more cover. Still do have Villainous looking their way, and they're going to be really aware of that and having to decide how they want to handle it. But now they are wide open. Opens up the opportunity for Sykes to put in work with the Devo. He does get knocked. It's down to Timmy and Guild. They also need to stick this res before the timer kicks in. The ring is about to close.
You saw them desperately recalling the drone there. It was 80%, quite close to EMP. They need to get that online, and they don't want to lose their drone before it gives them the opportunity to full send one of these teams and get a free fight win.
Well, they were able to do a lot of damage over time there, even though they were in a rough spot. Move up, clear out Villainous, and own this rock, which will give them a little bit more time here. Did a good job leaving Timmy back as well for just enough time. That was a really, really solid play on behalf of NRG.
Why are they letting them heal?
I don't know, but now it's down
Team
to Orchid.
I mean, okay, sure. They get the Stinger Bolts to go in there, but okay, they finally moved in. They don't take too long. It's just as I thought. NRG were going to get the med kits off. We do see Team Orchid pushing in, but Luxford has to clutch up, and he's up against a monster. It's Timmy on the other side.
Down to the 1v1. Timmy makes a move, and his shields are healthy, and he instantly wipes out Luxford. Nothing Luxford could have done in that scenario. Timmy was ready, and he takes home match number 5. I mean, that was impressive. Impressive.
Very impressive from NRG. I mean, I said they were going to need the ultimates when they were up on height, and they just dropped down and just like deleted the team Villainous below them. Just guns, pure gun work there. Nothing else needed besides crosshairs and heads.
I can't get over. I didn't even process how much time NRG really had in that moment after they dropped down. Like, why did Orchid wait that long to move in as soon as they knew that it was a straight up 3v3 with someone who just fought? Even if it's not a huge health disparity, I mean, they're getting their reloads in. They're potentially looking for a shield swap just to be safe. Those few seconds of indecision completely changed the outcome. And look what happens. We saw early they moved into that spot, Genome, and they only get 2 KP because of it.
Exactly. I think you're totally right. It was not a spot that was playing for KP. It was absolutely one that was playing for a win, and they didn't get there in the end because, as you say, a slight hesitation will stymie them. Meanwhile, NRG walk out with 14 kills. I just want to point out that we are 4 matches through this series, and Timmy has already dropped a 20 bomb. it's extremely hard in the best of days, in the best of regions to get 20 kills in a full series. Timmy has already done it in just 4 games.
Get to take a look at these head-to-head numbers as well for our first and second squads, and you can see that Orchid was putting out damage. It wasn't resulting in kills the way that they wanted it to, but they clearly were being a menace on the southern side of that zone. Just definitely a lesson to be learned here about making sure you're at least getting a few more KP on the board when you're in that good of a spot, because now you can see, as we take a look at the series results, the difference in where all of their points are coming from. We love the consistency in the placement points, but need a little bit more aggression to put them in a top 3 spot. Meanwhile, NRG just continuing to increase the point spread from first to second after a really successful match number 4.
It's a big gap here. We were, wondering whether it was going to be Falcons replicating that success of Alliance here in Americas, but no, it turns out that today it looks like that title, we're going to laud NRG for doing that here.
Honestly, really, really strong performance on behalf of NRG so far. Even I think they've only had one mid-match really where they still did get some points, just not what we've seen now in 3 out of the 4 matches so far. So they're definitely a force to be reckoned with here today on our series. But that's, like you said, 4 out of our 6 matches done for the day. We still have match number 5 coming up around the corner, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Sony InZone, the official monitor of the Apex Legends Global Series.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS as we wrapped up our first match on Stormpoint, and we'll be heading into match number 5 in just a few short moments after another pop-off performance from NRG. It is really starting to look like it just might be their day, Genome.
Oh, that was an epic finish from NRG. Why don't we relive it with you guys and watch Timmy clutch up yet again. It was against Lux, for the newest member of Team Orchid, who has been brought in to replace Panic. And I wonder, does that rankle? Does that sit around in the back of your head, being like, "Ooh, I wonder if Panic would have won that one"?
It has to. It has to. And I love that we actually are starting this far back in the final circle, so we can see exactly what happened, because this was the drop down from NRG with Timmy hanging back onto Villainous to give them enough space and time. And maybe it was Timmy harassing Orchid there, Gino, which is why they didn't move up right away, because you could see Hambino actually had almost no shields, and Rambo did take a little damage as well. So maybe that small deterrent from Timmy was all NRG really needed to survive long enough to heal after fighting Villainous and then win this fight with Orchid.
Oh my god, but Hambino's Stinger bolts there were actually sick. Did you see those? They did so much damage, and then he brings in the second one. It actually pushes NRG out exactly where he wants them. He's got them right in the palm of his hands, but I guess they just don't hit the shots in the end, and it's sheer firepower coming out of NRG to overwhelm Team Orchid.
Really, really good job by NRG to at least get that win, because you'll see they haven't gotten any other wins here so far, but they've just been slaying out every single time. So now that we have crypto banned, no longer an option. I mean, we saw just how many drones were out on the map in that last match. These people are not going to have that same information now, Gino.
Nope. It's the fourth ban, of course, that we've seen here, but it'll be interesting to see who else goes. You know, Ballistic has been removed pretty regularly in these lobbies. Maybe it's a Sparrow. We haven't had a look at the POI draft selection yet over here on Storm Point. Glitter, anything that stands out to you here?
I mean, I'm looking at this here. It's Shopify all the way up there at the top. They've got a really good POI with Zoo Station, but they haven't been getting these zone pulls. They've had to make some really, really long rotations after we saw them finding a lot of success in the first half of our series here today. So we were wondering if they were going to be able to replicate that. Just haven't really gotten the zones in their favor just yet. I was looking down at Coastal Camp a lot, though, to see who had been down there, and it was Villainous that had started there. So that was why they were able to have such a decent position and back and forth all the way up to the end. So good points for them as well.
Oh, Villainous were in Coastal Camp. Well, that's interesting, because of course we saw them. They were the ones who took Falcons out over in Echo HQ. So they've actually rotated away from their own POI. And, you know, without seeing the replay, I can't say for sure, but presumably because they didn't have a console and had to go and try and grab some info over there.
Yeah, I was wondering where they had come from. I didn't realize that they were literally right there. Oh, all right. We're jumping straight on board with NRG as they decide to do some, you know, insect hunting here. A little bug repellent, well, to start off their day. Now, I was waiting to see where this ring was going to go. Back down south, but now we're in Barrow, and this is going to be huge for Furia.
Very nice for them. You can see that the Barrow zone that we had previously today in EMEA, that was a lot more south. It finished on the building outside of Cenote Caves. We're not going to see that here. Almost no chance of this going to somewhere like Jurassic, where there is a little bit of the zone still inside. So we're expecting something, maybe either one of the bridges that joins the surrounding POIs to Barometer, or maybe those buildings towards the north side.
Also, NRG is going to be very comfortable hanging out there over in Cenote. As you can see, Sentinels have already moved in from Mill Orchid on their way as well, getting in nice and early. Everyone trying to claim some space over in Barrow. I want to see what Villainous is able to do now, as they yet again have a zone kind of working in their favor. And will we get some more aggression out of Orchid? I cannot believe, after we see that replay, that it was Timmy alone that had hung back as the reason for why they didn't make a quicker push.
What can I say, man? He's got that aura about him. When he sits up there and starts firing at you, teams take notice. And he's already, like we said, he's already dropped 20 kills. This guy is on an absolute tear today.
Ape Gang looking out their window, seeing already Catwall down. Nice shot to Sentinel there out of Bursty, doing a little bit of poke damage, seeing if they can maybe catch somebody out in a little bit of an off position. They are around Unleash CIMJ, Team Orchid, TSM. I mean, they're in an area where they've got lots of squads, and with that northern side of the choke that they could look at, definitely some potential here to maybe clean up some squads as they push in.
You know what's also crazy as I'm looking at this glitter? Timmy has played a different legend in every single game so far. Started off on Altar, went to Ash, then Wraith, and then Crypto.
So he's just showing off, is what you're saying. Oh.
He's one versatile player, that is for sure. Doesn't matter what he's on. I mean, even on the Crypto, he's still fragging out. A legend that's like renowned for having some of the lowest stats in the game.
Can't stop Kim. You can't stop Timmy from getting kills. Okay, as we get to see what's going on with this back and forth between Movie Star Koi and CIMJ. They were two of those teams in that northern choke, both backed off when they ran into each other. And Movie Star Koi did a good job of really weakening CIMJs. I think they're down to just one lone player now, and they are currently hunting him down. Meanwhile, NRG down to 2 Sentinels eliminated, and NRG part of it, but Timmy is knocked. All right, he's gonna get res though.
No, they're good, and they're right at the bottom of the zone as well, so you can see that NRG have scanned. They're aware of where these two zones are touching, and therefore they want to play with their backs to the zone. Always a strong position.
Yeah, they'll definitely be set up really well now for the next couple rings, be able to watch everybody else kind of fight it out in front of them. Could be an opportunity for Timmy to do some sniping as well and really start to be a menace for some of those other squads. Meanwhile, Movie Star Koi, they were on the hunt. It seems that lone player from CIMJ has managed to escape, so they'll just continue wrapping around on the western side here and be safe right on the edge of the circle, and completely alone, so they'll be able to kind of just relax and reset a bit.
Nice to have a relaxing moment every now and then on Apex, especially when, you know, you're getting jump scared by spiders half the time.
I hate the spiders. They scare me.
Yeah?
It's the noise. It's the sound of the spiders. Their little screech.
You're in the Frex camp?
It scares me.
You're like, yeah, you guys, yeah, I just got some more looting to do over here. You guys take care of the PvE. Yeah. You got this. I don't need the attachments.
Well, I'll just come get him after everybody else kills the spiders.
Oh, okay. You want the rewards without doing any of the work, huh?
Oh, Falcons on that eastern side of the circle here, moving their way in. Definitely probably went out a little bit earlier than they would have liked, in a very similar position here. They had been on the same side as Villainous and 100 Thieves all over here. Now it's looking a lot more open, so they'll be able to make this rotation, and with only one squad behind them, you could see here on the map and kind of get a good idea of where this is shifting. And like you said, NRG wants that slow side of the zone, and that's exactly where they are. This is working out beautifully for them.
Yeah, slow side of the zone is a good way to put it. That said, you don't get a lot in the middle of Barrow, and where the zone is right now, it doesn't leave you with a lot of space for that zone to actually pull down to NRG. So, yeah, the way I'm reading this one is it's probably going to swing back, but the fact that it was touching towards the bottom out there also kind of makes me a little bit 50-50 on it. All right, look, we've got one of the best zone readers in the game in Empty with Shopify, so look, why don't we just get his opinion?
Move there, team.
I'm going.
We're good. There's a team out here.
There's one team there. No, two teams. Can
we be third them?
Yeah, can we hit this and see if, like, that's free?
Yeah, I'll hit it first. Yeah, I agree. 5 seconds.
All good.
If you guys want to, like, posture
I'm e-backing if it's free, okay?
Maybe all three on this drive.
I missed. I'm just gonna run up and hit it. Okay?
Coming with you.
I'll hit it.
Hold on.
Find down to us. Find down to us.
Yeah, seriously, how long, man?
10 seconds.
Bro, what is that guy doing? Where's Sonic? Come down, Sky, come down.
I vote.
Quickly. I hit it.
Yeah, I'm going up now.
Bro, I'm going.
Can we just let's go and go? Can we just let's go and go?
You should let's go. This is fucking no. That top right. Oh, I'm tweaking. Never mind. I thought the top side was through. Alright, we're chilling. We just need to hold nut.
Yeah.
Do we hold this bridge as much as we can for now?
I was just
and then
thinking
like.
that.
I don't know if we can.
I think we should try. I don't know if we can though. Corey's right.
I mean, if someone just ends the bridge, then like.
Yeah, it's honestly whatever. I don't think it matters.
Can you knock across the top?
I think we just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just sit here.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going other end.
Oh wait.
We're just playing this because Crypto's fan, Koi.
Yeah.
Like we can't really
get play out. Like.
I'm just gonna play dirty, bro.
Some comms there. You hear the comm. Crypto is banned. We can play this building. So, you know, Alta's gone. Crypto is gone. The options for teams to actually siege you inside a building are much reduced at this end of the series. And therefore, Shopify are able to sort of identify that as a much more playable option.
Yeah, and they're going to need it too. You could tell that they were trying to figure out the best next steps here in order to continue moving through to the next ring. So we'll have to see if they're able to kind of figure that out. Meanwhile, Rock over here down to 2. Do have the potential for Deeds to be rezzed, but they're finding themselves in the crosshairs of another squad. Sparrow being a little bit tough for them to deal with. Sorcerer, the only one left alive, and it is Movie Star Koi. Blinkster pushes all the way in and cleans him up. Rock is out, and Movie Star Koi beautifully executed for the takedown.
ROC finally getting a little bit of momentum with a 4th place and 13th place and 8 kills in the last game. But there we go. Koi are going to stop that dead in their tracks, and there it is. Glitter, the pullback goes towards the north side, goes towards Twisted Minds, not as far as Ape Gang, but Team Orchid in the building below them are going to be pretty happy.
You know, also still not too terrible for NRG as well, because while within the ring that it's currently in, that's a shift away, in the grand scheme of things, it's still on the relatively slow side of the zone. So they'll be able to kind of stay behind everybody else that's going to have to be moving in as well, and maybe kind of play around the edge. Meanwhile, Liquid Alienware have been on the outside of the circle for a very long time. They've been back and forth on this western edge with Shopify Rebellion. Kind of, do they want to fight? Do they not want to fight? It looks like they're looking to see if they can maybe get an opening here and try to move in after dealing some damage, and they are dumping everything they have at their disposal on Shopify. Moving in, if they've managed to get Empty and Zainu both very low here, opening up the door for Liquid Alienware to clean them up.
Too easy. You can see them just full running at this point, and even trying to get away. Zion, he knows he has one opportunity to grab him, and that's while they're on the zip and kind of gone. But with the 1 HP left, there's no way he just gets 2 of them. He gets the bat off in the nick of time. Liquid Alienware have just been destroyed by Zainu.
With an insane play like that, it almost feels unfair that Unleash is moving in for the third party right now. They're able to get Koi while Zainu's still alive in the nut, trying to escape, does get out to see if he can maybe rat for some more points for the squad, but that was absolutely insane.
That is one of the most insane turnarounds I have ever seen. I hope he gets the team back up and respawns here, because he deserves it after that clutch.
100%. Meanwhile, flat down to 2 inside of a back and forth with Orchid here. Now down to 1. Nano's the last one alive, able to clutch up and take out Team Orchid. Nano should be able to get a reset here for the squad as well. Not sure how long it's going to last, but they do have a really good building for this next circle. So if they're able to get the reset, and as it'll, you know, have to see what they do. I just got really sad. I saw Zainu and the kill feed go down and I got completely distracted.
No justice in this world whatsoever. Look, at least Shopify is still in second place. They're 47 points right now, but 100 Thieves, 5 points behind them, are knocking on the door. Meanwhile, TSM Panic has gone down to NRG, who are still looking to keep themselves well on top. 78 points now. They actually might, is that higher than Alliance's total that they got earlier today?
I think so.
Oh, they got 82, so they've still got a little ways to go.
An achievable gap, to be sure. Meanwhile, we're watching Falcons just taking knock after knock. They've been trying to get themselves rezzed and reset, but they are definitely in a tough spot playing up against this wall here. FURIA has had them in their sights, as well as a couple other of these squads, and it's just been a rough go on the edge there for Falcons. They've got Villainous by them yet again. FURIA here hanging out in this building and able to just, they have so many sight lines of some of these other squads down below.
And you can see them just desperately trying to avoid damage. Oh my god, that's an epic stinger. And you can see it fully pushes Falcons out of their comfort zone and the position they wanted to stay in there. Zero getting knocked on the Pathfinder. There's a lot of reasons you do play Pathfinder. One of them is not his hitbox.
Oh, I think that Zip just came out a few seconds too late. Villainous had moved in pretty aggressively and they get Hal. So now Falcons are down to 2 directly under FURIA, and worrying about Villainous with that off angle, who might continue to push in and see if they can maybe clean up the duo. They're going to see if they can maybe dip out in here and get themselves a little bit more cover. Walty and Zero are going to have to survive with a lot of this chaos that's about to kick off. FURIA, though, still dealing damage. Unleash, you could see moving up here as Envy also move across, but look at the kill feed. FURIA is lighting it up right now.
Okay, see you, Keon. Running that R99, opting for the controllable weapon over the sometimes RNG blooms of the P2020s. NRG actually goes down. Wasn't expecting that one so early.
NRG were in a tough spot there once they decided to move in. They had a lot of teams looking at them as they did, and no real quick way to do it safely. We got to see Envy in the wings, and it's once again back on board with FURIA. I mean, they have had such a good position on height, but it's not going to last after this ring. This is where they have to make their move in. No more poking from a distance, and we'll have to see if anybody even notices as they push. And it looks like not a single person was looking at Madness as he moves in into the shipping container and instantly claims a little bit of safety.
Let's go. This has been a great game for FURIA, who honestly needed some points, needed a bit of a morale booster, and this one could be it. Falcons actually going down now as well. We're also getting a bit of vision of 100 Thieves. I saw Phony get 2 knocks with a single stinger bolt just before, so he's clearly learning how to put the new Recon Legend to use.
FURIA are on an absolute tear right now. They've almost cleared out the entire southeast corner, just Villainous left potentially in their way to really start to feel safe. Meanwhile, Envy, they moved in, they've got some hype, but they're gonna have to be dropping down soon. And you've got Twisted Minds in the area, Movie Star Koi in the general vicinity, and Skittle Cakes has already taken a little bit of damage. So we'll have to see if they're able to survive. It looks like FURIA want to be the one taking out Movie Star Koi. They moved over into this fight, and Villainous are eliminated. FURIA are still alive. Keon's the only one knocked. I don't know how FURIA have managed to survive this.
Little insane that they've even managed to get out with 2 players, but is that it? Is this where it ends? Is the single member of dropped? Oh, actually, no, he's got Skittles there as well. Yeah, okay, the dynamic duo from NB will clear them out. They also get all of this side and all of that loot to themselves, by the way. Glitter?
Honestly, that was bound to happen, and Envy were doing a really good job of trying to find like an open pocket to drop down into for this next ring, so they'll be able to hide for a bit while Flat are battling it out with Twisted Minds. We've got Ape Gang in the area as well, and Board's just hanging out in the wings trying to watch a lot of this go down, seeing if they can survive.
Flat have got the roof here. And the other team underneath them, board just hiding out all the way on the side. Tracking darts set up if anyone wants to try and climb up just to dissuade them.
Flat have such a good poke situation right now for themselves with both their comp and their guns. Board tried to hide, but the duo is eventually eliminated. And now we're down to our top 4. Flat are looking very healthy, and this 30-30 in the hands of Nano is going to be putting in some work.
Yeah, Big Louie gets the knock onto Skittles, but I don't think Twisted Mind are willing to push this, and therefore they will get the res. Meanwhile, Flat kind of have to take on Twisted Minds as the two teams that occupy the lower ground here. Ape Gang don't want to get out yet. Stinger Bolts have to come through. Q using the dash here just to try and survive a little bit longer, but no, now we're down to the top 3.
I was just about to say that I'm surprised Ape Gang hadn't made their move yet. Flat are now eliminated. Like you said, dynamic duo here at Envy now down to just Skittlecakes trying to survive, but he can't do it. Twisted Minds takes him out, and this opens up the door for Ape Gang to move in. It's the final 3v3, and Ape Gang are able to capitalize on Twisted Minds' already existing damage. They will close out match number 5.
Interesting. Looking forward to seeing the kill numbers here in game number 5. Quite a few teams who were, you know, sort of just biding their time really at the end. We didn't have one of those, you know, steamroll teams like an NRG just come through and pump the lobby, steal all the kills. It was a little more considered how teams finished out that one in North Barometer.
Yeah, I think that was a rough spot because so many of those teams had claimed a building with height that ended up not being in rings 5 and 6, and so that exodus of everybody having to leave a building and the timings of how it was all happening caused a lot of chaos, where we ended up with quite a few duos and quite a few teams that were just able to do a lot of damage until they had to move, like FURIA specifically. I mean, they were melting squads until they had to drop down from their position, able to clean up a few more KP, but in the end, not able to survive all the way through. And Ape Gang are the ones who bring this one home, and honestly, that's a huge win for Ape Gang.
That is pretty solid there with 17 points. I think it only gets them up into 6th. But it is kind of tight down in the middle where they are, right? Twisted Minds with 17 as well. They are in a similar spot, just a little bit lower, with 26. Anyway, let's have a look at the stats from our top 3 teams from match 5.
Okay, I wanted to see what we had here for damage. I mean, Envy also with the 8KP, over 4,700 damage. They were having a really, really strong performance. But if we're looking at Ape Gang, a shout out to Din there with 2.1k damage alone.
Not bad. That's a big solo performance there. Now, if we're looking at the overall scoreboard here for the series, Glitter, again, NRG have got it head and shoulders above the rest of the lobby, but Shopify Rebellion with their consistent aggression, I mean, they only picked up, it was 3 kills, no placement points in that last game, but, you know, if it's 3 points in a bad game, then they probably are going to be ahead of the rest of the lobby. Now, they're really battling it out with 100 Thieves and maybe Falcons for 2nd place, but below that, it does become a bit spicier.
Yeah, I think that we're starting to see some patterns emerging here. Even like we saw in EMEA, similar situation in a match where the team that's in the lead doesn't have as strong a performance in an individual game. Overall, when they have slayed out so heavily the entire time, they've managed to give themselves a massive cushion there. So I think it's going to be a fun final match to see which team steps up to the plate, who's able to get that win, or we get some sort of a double win situation out of any of these teams that have really had some really strong performances. I do love, though, that we're getting new names along the way as well. But like we've said, we still have one more match left in our series here for Americas, which means it's time for our final break as well. And when we return, we will close out day 4 of the Americas. Don't go anywhere.
It's been nearly 4 months since we all came together. With Year 5 well underway, we now find ourselves here in the Big Easy for the first massive, big, colossal LAN of the season.
Nice little hold, only up to stay naughty from LG. The P20, he lets them ring.
Here at Ammo, Soten.
Should have been an easy wipe. Should have been FWG with the hold.
And with the Ash Portal on top of it, now it's really up to Kimchi.
But Chaotic moves in, he'll find 2. He collapses on the damage. Chaotic's gonna swing! Flying away. Red is one. From Timmy, and NRG, look for money, it's 150 with the Kraber. Twisted mind, deleted, Imperial How? DKG answer back, but Baffin drops down again, his Eva is monstrous! Often enough, Timmy giving all the attention to is very hard, and now Kurev does exactly that, he's swinging with the charge up rapid. Whichever one wins will get through!
Rejects the G7 hit fire shots!
Sykes is the last alive, does what he can for Envy, but it's not enough! It's Alliance who will close out game number 1 here on Broken Moon. So they put up a huge amount of points. Glory Man, he'll come through the catwalk with the PK and the P20s, and it will be GHS Boom who win your match number 2 here.
Alliance have officially hit match point with 50 points after 3 games. Koipo manages to come up, the piercing spike putting in the pressure. It's Shopify.
Falcons are back up to 3 though, they get the raise, it's now Falcons' chance. As Falcons hit match point, Falcons up on the high ground. Is this the moment that this squad was put together for? Alcazia down, Falcons rising, Falcons champions from the most insane elimination bracket run, and will be crowned your ALGS Open champions. They have soared to ascendancy here in New Orleans, and they have that magic moment that they were built for. And quite rightly, Waltzy gets the chance as he will get to lift his first ever ALGS trophy.
APGAN take the last dub, and we move on to our final game of the series. I mean, we are seeing an explosive performance, though, from Energy, the way that they've been able to perform so far, Genome. I mean, soaking up all the KP and still leading the pack across the rest of Americas.
Yeah, Timmy's been nuts, and I think as soon as you saw that Pathfinder was coming back into the meta, I got very excited. I think a lot of fans out there, Timmy has some of the most fans out of any Apex, like pro, let alone content creators. So he's known for his amazing Pathfinder plays, and it is good to see him occasionally be able to step out and grapple on some fools.
And you pointed out something that was incredible, actually, with Glitter, that he's been playing a different legend every game, showcasing how flexible he actually could be in difficult games like this, as we could see some of the highlights at the very end of our last game.
We see Twisted Minds just hiding over here. Stinger bolts coming out everywhere. A lot of teams running the Sparrow, and that's why he's actually been banned out for the last game.
First Sparrow ban that we get to see, by the way, for the day. Love to see it, because of course we did go through a meal. We didn't see that go down over there in that region, with ApeGang taking that dub, elevating themselves now within the top 5, I believe, top 6. Now they take game number 5, and we move on to our final game of the day on match 6.
You know, am I sad about Sparrow getting banned out? Not really. Am I sad about Artemis, his cat, getting banned out? Yeah, you know what, that one hurts me.
Oh man, yep, sorry Artemis, gotta put you away just for a little bit. I mean, Sparrow and Artemis will have a good time elsewhere right now while they get to watch on and see what action goes down on match number 6. Will we see more combination of the Catalyst play coming up together, seeing how, you know, some of these squads struggling and finding a better rotate? I mean, I jumped back in, I saw you and Glitter taking over and saw what action went down between Liquid and Zainu inside that building of a reset. I mean, talk about an insane way to turn things around before he inevitably fell right afterwards.
That was crazy. I don't know, like, is there a replay of that? Because I just kind of like want to watch it back and not talk and just like sort of sit there in awe. Hopefully we get that at some point today, because that was actually one of the craziest outplays I have seen in Pro League. Having a look at our series results up until this point. Yeah, as we said, it's kind of NRG well on top. And then below there, it gets a little hairier. You really hope that Shopify Rebellion can pull it out. Maybe, as we talked about, they get a better zone. There's been a lot of sort of south zones that have not suited them, but who knows?
Seeing here too, you know, Falcons sitting in that 4th place spot. Even if they haven't been able to get a ton of KP, they're still keeping up here right behind 100 Thieves with 21 KP for themselves. MB right behind them as well. Team Orchid, I tuned in at the very end of that game 4. Almost heartbroken to see that slight stagger. I mean, that Sparrow ult placed perfectly would have allowed them so much more of an advantage in terms of timing on taking that fight. But unfortunately fell short and falling into that 2nd place after game number 4. And then looking at the other star, you know, the other side of things, TSM still sitting in 14th place here with only 9 KP.
Yeah, that's a little sad, isn't it? With our resident up-and-coming star, Mr. Panic. As you can see, he was very quickly poached from Team Orchid after his incredible performance, you know, in the North American LAN, and then you're seeing, like, you know, Kimchi get added to Fusion after the dissolution of Complexity, which was frankly a little sad considering how far he came and how much he improved on that roster.
Yeah, and then looking at the different changes too, right? Team Liquid Alienware losing out on Kuriv, but obtaining Yanya right back again, but still sitting in 15th place overall. Only been able to get 11 total kills over the course of these last 5 games. TSM, as we highlighted already before, with Sidocake stepping away, Panic coming into this fray, still also not being able to get that momentum in terms of that KP.
Yeah, we also see the return of Raven to Ninjas in Pajamas. Obviously, they've moved over from having a team in the EU region and then coming over now to North America. We also saw Source, unfortunately, with a disappointing result for LG, get removed from his team and be replaced with Nocturnal as the IGL.
Now taking a look at the legend bans, as we already highlighted before, Sparrow was the most used legend after game number 5, so that means we won't be seeing Sparrow going into our final game. And I find that so interesting too, right? You see the different bans across different regions, further elevating different play styles from those regions as well. And you see Alter consistently kind of getting knocked out first, Ash right afterwards. Obviously, the maps play a heavy part into this, but Sparrow being out for Stormpoint makes you wonder, you know, what are we going to see going next?
Yeah, I mean, we finally see a Newcastle ban, which we actually have been missing in some of the other regions. So interesting that Americas are still opting for that en masse. And yeah, look, it's great to see Sparrow coming through. I think that means at least the team has released him in a very playable state, in a very strong state, in fact. And it's awesome to see the pros very quickly acclimatizing to some of his abilities and how versatile he is in competition.
Now taking a look at Ape Gang, the team that just won game number 5. Didn't drop like 2k damage in that last game, and being able to find a little bit of that momentum now, elevating themselves to top 6 after that game alone. Really helps your footing here. And I was talking about Catalyst earlier on too, before seeing maybe if we're going to be seeing more Catalyst integrated here, but it's not the case actually. Actually going right back into this year, getting a little bit of a reset. Looks like Ballistic actually is going to be the one to actually really come through here.
Of course, it's a bit elementary in match 6, right? It is. I always find it interesting because it says something about the not the quality of the lobby, but the sort of the trend in the lobby, what kind of action we're going to see. Is it, wait, is it 100% pick rate?
100% pick rate. That's why I was making sure and double checking.
Yeah,
but yeah, we have
team.
a 100% pick rate on Ballistic. And I do like what you were about to mention, Genome, because when you look at the final games, obviously like the legend ban doesn't matter beyond that final game, right? So picking that one pick legend further highlights what teams may be able to now work into their composition after already getting rid of 5 other previous legends.
Yep, and yeah, if you're talking about that sort of, you know, pseudo ban setting the pace of the lobby, well, obviously it is 100% 20 ballistics in the lobby. It absolutely is going to be, but yeah, 100 Thieves taking an early loss to Ape Gang.
Verholst being the one knocked out. Ape Gang's gonna be able to pick that up pretty quickly. Now that's gonna set back to squad here. 100 Thieves now having to navigate around the devastated coast away from Ape Gang, where Falcons are going to be able to still loot up their POI over by Launchpad here with a quick rotate over to where the zone's going to be pulling.
All right, well, that was pretty quick. He's back. Verholst is back. 60 players left in the lobby once again.
They knew it was going to happen. They had to just wait it out. TSM now looking at the teams that are coming in from the other side. As they're going to be looking down at Team Orchid, Unleashed right behind Team Orchid. To be able to gatekeep the squads that are going to be rotating over from the west side, though, and holding onto the top of this building, TSM having that information on where that next zone is going to be pulling over by Launchpad.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I don't know if Falcons necessarily do. They seem to be heading towards Devastated Coast right now. It looks like we are going to get a Devastated Coast zone, and therefore 100 Thieves sitting up in the raised building will, of course, have God Spot for as long as they can hold on to that too. Falcons eventually get there. I don't think they got a ring console, so they actually had to watch 2 or 3 teams rotate past them until they could make that deduction.
Seeing where everybody else is going to be funneling. Sentinel's now playing off that low ground, as they're going to be pinging where they want to be settled. Teams right above them. With Verholst getting freshly respawned, though. A little behind on that Evo shields. Now still rocking the white, but he is on the Fusey, so we know that pretty easy to boost up those Evo shields with the knuckle clusters and the nades.
And it's good, right? Because having the Tempest available here, like often you suffer from not having enough ammunition to hit other people. Often you suffer from being in position too early and then, you know, not being able to get up to purples. But if you can just peek out every, you know, minute or so, because that ultimate comes up so quickly, you just pop that and then you've got bows shooting at people with unlimited ammo, and you've got some very, you know, reasonable ways of pushing yourself up to purple. The med economy is probably the only question there.
With 100 Thieves also saying that the zone had pulled over to their POI, denying themselves the opportunity to get loot on a rotate, right? So holding on to that spot over on the high ground on the cable cart. While fighting over to the north side, looking at flat Twisted Minds. TSM are slowly wrapping up right behind the other side of Twisted Minds, where there is an Evo Harvester. So Twisted Minds back away, utilizing that portal. And are one of the squads rocking the Watson.
Always a good pick when you can get into zone early, Vicky, and that's what they've done. So let's see if those fences keep the baddies at bay as Nano just pops a quick 150 and then gets downed for his troubles.
Peeking Panic at that too. The 30-30's ringing to get that knock as well. You know, on the distance, by the way, Jen was able to get a knock onto How. Great coverage right there coming in from Fuse, at least to get the crack, but now they're going to be able to get the finishing blow. They're going to be able to get the shield swap as well. Duke taking up on the high ground. And the fighting too on the other side with Liquid Alien Energy here. They want to get some revenge as Nizul is the last one left up on the high ground, and they fully jump on top of Liquid Alien. And once again, Team Liquid is the first squad out of this lobby.
Oh my, and they're in 15th spot, Vicky. Not a happy end for Team Liquid Alienware.
Oh, we're just fully sending it with a Tempest now sliding in. They do lose out on Dupe, and it's just one shot left from the 30-30 to take out Flat, as Panic is going to be able to get that res.
Couple of teams towards the bottom of the leaderboard are having an early exit here today. Flat and T-Law go out in 14th and 15th. We'll have to see if any of the teams below them now get the chance to leapfrog them.
Unleash wanted to move up after hearing the fight to try the 3P, but mistiming it, allowing TSM to now reset. Unleash forced to back away. Rocker holding 3 different separate angles, by the way, on the north side of the zone, taking up a good amount of space. Trying to get a scout to see what that fight was.
I mean, they've got Shopify Rebellion coming in towards them, right? That's the sort of team that seems to be taking the most time on the northern side, whereas Movistar are coming in towards... I mean, they could go in through Pylon. They can also go in through the sort of river entrance as well. Multiple options for them. Villainous also seems to be one of these teams who is happy to play very late zone edge rotation kind of style.
Yeah, objective out here too, right? They'll be able to now rotate through Echo HQ. There's a survey beacon there. Evil Harvester on top of it too. And while they do approach from that southwestern side, FURIA are up ahead slightly up the hill, looking at the teams fighting in deeper into Devastated Coast, not really looking behind them, seeing maybe if a squad is going to be approaching. They have turned around, maybe calling them out now. And now looking on the northwestern side, CTE, Movistar Koi on that slow rotate through Pylon where there is also a ring console.
Shopify have found that fight with Rock eventually. Remember, number 2 spot, need to hold on to it, need a few points most likely to do that. 30 seconds left if they want to engage here with the advantage of having the auto loader engaged. And they actually zip all the way around the side here, putting themselves on the low ground, but also getting themselves out of harm's way. And potentially, yeah, they do. You can actually see just a hint of green on their mini map, so they know exactly where they're going. They're looking for an early god spot because people don't tend to play the spots down here that early on in the game, Vicky.
Be hard sometimes too, and we're trying to call it out. You don't have access to the ring console, and in this case, they have it. Looking behind them, Rock at Shopify, splitting up their attention. TSM hearing this fight, by the way, could actually put down some poke pressure considering the fact that we noticed that they have those 30-30s available to them in that weapon loadout. Shopify fully trying to extend as Zainu falls incredibly low, still comes into the fight before having to forcibly reset. Does have that shield bat at the very least. Zainu looked like he was popping, yeah, he was popping those shield cells, wondering if he had a shield bat to work with. There's that 30-30 shot that I had mentioned from TSM right behind them. And we see 30% peak rate, by the way, on the Pathy. Those Pathy changes really helping them out. Baxo sitting duck on the zipline, forced to drop down. He does get out of Shopify Rebellion's line of sight.
I don't know how he manages to get out of that one. Koifel is usually a turret, but it actually misses a few shots there at the end of the Devo clip, which probably would have put him on the ground.
Wow. Looking at the stats right now, NRG, by the way, have 22,000 damage. That's over 8,600 more damage than the nearest team. Like a 6,800 damage difference. Being told by production that no other team has broken the 20,000 damage mark in America's Pro League this year. So already NRG trying to become a staple right now with Shopify sitting in second place with 47 points, making sure that their entire western side is clear before moving forward through the Prowler Den. Unleash is inside one of those buildings on the outskirts of Launchpad over to the east side. Movistar Koi, a team that has definitely been struggling a bit here throughout the course of the day. Trying to force their way into the edge of zone before that squad now moves up inside the zone.
Okay, Rock, after failing to engage successfully with Shopify Rebellion, will take it on to Movistar. And once again, another team is getting the better of them. This time they're even closer to death. And I don't think Movistar are willing to let this go. A point here or there could make a big difference for Movistar down the bottom end of the leaderboard. They need a few more. They're the ones who are looking to try and overtake T-Law, but NRG aren't looking for that. They're looking to overtake Alliance as the big dogs of today, and a single kill will secure that for them. NRG now will have the highest point total of any team across the different regions today.
You gotta hit them with a grata-ta-ta on that charge-up rampage, especially when you got the Tempest activated from the Ballistic. Meanwhile, from the distance, the third-party attempt, once again, slightly too late from CIMJ. Holding this choke, NRG gonna have to fight their way through this with the zone closing in the next 27 seconds. That was perfect.
Yeah,
that was a perfect
right.
transition.
We need some of that metal energy as you're making their way into the next zone. I'll tell you what, sure, they have tied up first place almost certainly now, but they certainly are not looking happy about how they make it in towards Devastated Coast, and it's pulling even further east, even further away from them as they take an evac and will be looking to land maybe in the building, maybe towards one of the fingers. It's honestly going to be a very rough landing. It's going to be a lot of turbulence either way.
Yeah, no matter what, even if they're forced to play off the low ground, Team Orchid are there. CIMJ had already moved up, like we saw, a team that's sitting in last place overall over the course of the last 5 games as well. They wanted to play it safe, play within the next zone. Now Energy on the outskirts of that next zone. Under Thieves. Looking ahead. Sentinels right behind them. Twisted Minds over by Devastated Coast. Squad right below them too, aside from Villainous, who are over to the side.
Shopify still haven't been able to take up that primo position that is occupied by TSM. Potentially just waiting for an opening pick. And this is where those Skull Piercers really come in handy, right? Because the difference it can make going from, what is it, like something like 105 to a 130 just gives you more options in terms of being able to hit one less bullet perhaps and then get the knock. You see people getting knocked all the time. Even at the pro level, they just cannot predict the amount of burst damage that these marksman weapons are putting out right now.
Especially if you're getting shot in multiple different directions, right? Having to split your attention as Zero in the feed actually gets the knock onto Blinkster with the Kraber. 15 squads left, and the only team in that next zone that called out where that final zone's pulling is TSM at the moment. Holding on to that lonely southern side of the Prowler Den we saw them earlier at. Luxford goes out earlier from Team Orchid. It's the team that's still by the Replicator. Rambo incredibly low, but doesn't have the opportunity to reset in terms of health because they are sitting ducks in the line of sight of other squads that are holding the bridge side.
This is pretty hard for them. They're getting chased down by Falcons, and you can see that Imperial Howl will actually grab the 30-30 down on that one. Falcons, they actually need a massive game to improve their standings. Some points here or there, maybe that would be good enough to keep the other teams at bay and stick in the 4th spot. But we all know Falcons, they're not happy with any number less than a 1.
It's going to be hard when you're looking at the 86 points that Energy has gotten as they still put down the pressure from above, have high ground on top of it. Round 4 starts closing in the next 5 seconds, and they know the teams that are going to be coming in from this direction. Guild, he gets the crack originally. He leaves that player 1 before dropping down. CIMJ gets 2 knocks as NRG now move up. Guild was farming this team from right below them.
Yeah, you can see him slowly turning around, trying to work out where the 3rd member is. Can't find them, has to go for the full kills instead. But all of these teams are moving in now. None of them are set up for the next zone. The closest is probably Falcons, honestly, who have gone for Watson. So maybe that gives them an option to, I think they, was that ROC or Falcons that got hit by that Fuse ultimate? I don't know.
It looks like ROC because they were passing right in front of the line of sight of Falcons as they're still holding the corner, trying to gatekeep the teams. Unleash, Team Orchid, NRG, Rock, all of them trying to navigate their way from the west side of this zone. They're all going to collapse on one another as Energy drop down. Guild puts down even more. Sice gets taken out here. Unleash get eliminated. 8 squads left now, and Skittle jumps up on top of Pride Rock to keep it up, but Guild is still alive, and they're all running past him because he's hiding behind the sliver of cover that this rock provides. Can he pull off the shield ban? It sounds like he did, but it's still 2 members of Envy unless a 3rd party could save him.
Red Armors chasing down NRG. You've got Falcons with the Kraber. Was that a double or was that a collat? Either way, Zero's popping off with the big sniper right now.
Skittles came back and he went to finish what he started before. Falcons ended up being the nuisance that they couldn't deal with after getting that Kraber shot into one of the members of Envy. Envy now get fully eliminated and Falcons alive. 4 squads left, and TSM again are the only team in that next zone. Sentinels on the outskirts. Shopify looking at Falcons from height.
Yeah, well, I guess without, I mean, there's a couple of wraiths in here, but we just saw no teams willing to take portals to the next zone or really just make any early moves. And that meant all of them died. Like all 10 teams or something that basically just moved in for that zone all died. And Falcons were the only ones who were a little bit proactive. They went to hug the top of that mountain. And as you can see, that's netted them a couple of kills, 4 on the side of Imperial Hal, and now has allowed them to get into this top 4. Popping just around the side.
Over 2,000 damage already too right now. Oh, Zero tries to go for the trick shot. I'm getting a little bit of PTSD after something that we've seen way long ago. Something similar happened to Zero. Shopify now move up as Falcons from that trick shot are feeling the reprimands. The P20 from Shopify to move up, leaving Hal still alive from Falcons. Can they get the reset now with the zone closing in?
Well, Shopify, obviously, they've been looking for this spot forever. TSM have kept them out, but it's meant that TSM don't really walk away with that many kills. Meanwhile, Falcons are just hoping that the other teams lock eyes and stare into them lovingly, because that's the only way that Hal is going to be able to get some reses here. A bat might be the most he can hope for, and Shopify start to move in like the sharks they are.
Oh, if he had gotten that headshot, being able to go through that space would have been a lot easier, but Shopify, they capitalize and eliminate Falcons and take on game number 6 as your winners.
Big finish from Shopify. Not quite big enough to overtake NRG, who almost cracked the hundo barrier, by the way. But they'll certainly be happy with it. That was a pretty strong finish there by all of our top teams, really. NRG, Falcons, and Shopify all putting up the points to either maintain or better their results going into the final game.
Man, so many members of NRG. I mean, Timmy, Guild, they were popping off throughout the course of the day. Being able to see the shakeup, though, even at the very end, Shopify moving up, TSM that were playing rather split, holding up that bottom end of that end circle, and still being able to take that dub was absolutely huge. As we bring back Glitter, after breaking down the last 2 games, it's been nice to see you and Genome cast it out together, but that final game, man, I feel like Falcons really did start. They've been doing pretty good, but that one game they were able to get the KP that they needed.
Yeah, you know, that's very Falcons, right? Even if you think that they're ever having a rough day, a rough event, they won't ever go out in that fashion. So able to pick it up there at the end, but even Shopify as well. You had asked me heading into match 5, Genome, when we were looking at those POI drafts, what was standing out to me, and Shopify was one of the teams that I had called out because they just really didn't have things going their way when we had moved on over to Stormpoint. I was wondering, are they going to be able to pick up their momentum after Broken Moon? And they're able to do that here in the final match. I mean, they're a team that we talked about a lot heading into the Open because of the caliber of players that trio brings to the table. And they are a team that should constantly be in the discussion for one of our top squads at the end of the day. I feel like we actually had some really good performances from a bunch of different teams as we get a chance to take a look at these match 6 results. And, you know, KP on the board, like you guys were talking about, Falcons up here, NRG yet again slaying out in a situation where they're not getting that many placement points, but still double-digit kills. The only double-digit team in the lobby. I mean, NRG have really impressed me today, Genome.
Yeah, I think they've impressed everyone. Timmy, you know, gets kill leader. Guild follows him up not long behind that. And, you know, almost gets 10k damage just by himself. There's the overall leaderboard. It's NRG for the win, doubling their placement points with 61 kills. Disgusting stat line that is. Shopify with that win clutch it up and get second. Falcons move up into third and shove 100 Thieves down below them. And then there's a little bit of a gap. And you know what? I think that's kind of fair. Those 4 top teams really are on a different level to everyone else in Americas right now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair assessment. And, you know, you were asking, are we going to see NRG beat out what Alliance got in EMEA today? That is your answer, okay? NRG came to play today. They looked scary. So congratulations to them because, Vicky, this is, I think, like Genome said, it's the fact that the kill points are in the 60s right now is just really impressive.
I'm scared. I'm in danger. Like, this is the way that NRG was just farming these lobbies with double-digit KP. Timmy and Guild were like competing with one another for the KP of just being the highest kill leader in the whole lobby. I think Timmy like with over 23 or so, like 23 kills. Guild right there with 22 KP. Nonetheless, Sykes joining into the squad, it's further highlighted that this is a team that you absolutely cannot sleep on. I mean, we saw the results in scrims, but again, that's scrims. You know, you have to see it really play out in a Pro League day, and they did just that.
Absolutely. And since you're talking about the individual performances of Timmy, we might as well pull up this Oni in zone kill leader race because he is at the tippy top of our leaderboard, followed immediately by Guild by only 1 kill. And then Sykes is going to round out the top 4 with them. Zainu being up there, honestly, he deserves it. He had phenomenal performance, but the fact that you've got all 3 of NRG so close in numbers and all almost in that top 3 spot really speaks to just the demolition of like slaying power that we saw out of them today, Genome.
Yeah, it was like we haven't seen much like it in a while, to be honest. Switching up between compositions.
Yeah.
Timmy just like getting so many kills with his Kraber right here. It was a masterclass from these guys.
I mean, just the second Timmy gets any form of a sniper in his hands, people should be absolutely terrified. But you've got Guild only 1 kill behind, Vicky, and it's just showing just how strong this team is looking right now.
Yeah, I feel like their weapons loadouts complemented each other. There was a lot of follow potential from the entirety of this squad, which I feel like is why they felt so powerful. Oh my gosh, seeing the end for that game, by the way, that you guys were casting was absolutely insane. Honestly, if the Sparrow ult was placed a little bit more further, that could have been game changer right there from what I was able to observe. But still, at the end of the day, the weapon loadout, the way that the synergy has flowed here for NRG has allowed them to stay on top for the course of today.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to get your opinion on that as well. Because when Genome and I were casting it live, at first we didn't realize just how much damage Timmy had done in the wings to keep Orchid backed off from making a faster push onto NRG when they dropped down. So I once again, it just kind of illustrates, even if it's not a kill, just the damage output from Timmy alone was so impactful.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was honestly so crazy to see how in many monumental fights that we saw throughout the course of the day, between the Kraber, between the 30-30 follow-ups, we could see that this team definitely has a good understanding of comms flowing in through.
Absolutely. And we'll see what that means now for NRG in our overall standings as another day is completed. We get to see where our teams have shaken out and what this does, because we started off the day, obviously they didn't play today, but VP was at the top. And after what we got out of all of our squads, it's now Shopify and NRG in our top 2 spots, only separated by 3 points, Genome, and then of course Falcons right behind. This is a pretty tight leaderboard.
This is still anyone's game, honestly, isn't it? I mean, obviously at this point we've got some teams who have played less series. You can see that here on the scoreboard. So VP sitting up there at 39 could grab a 25 points and jump straight to the top. But that said, the teams who are on the top at the moment for the most part have played 3, and they are within touching distance of each other. And it was the top 4. The top 4 on this leaderboard, the same as the top 4 as we saw in our series today. And I don't think that's any coincidence. They have been the best, and they've been consistently the best.
Yeah, this is super impressive. And you know that, like you're mentioning, a lot of the squads that have only played 2 series, when they jump back in and get themselves on the board. It's going to be super important that they're collecting as many points as they can when they have the opportunity to do so, Vicky, because we see it happen every single time. And it's often down to a point here or there that separates these teams from qualification or not.
Yeah, right. We have like 5 days left here for Pro League, so lots of opportunities to see which of these teams need to make the adjustments that they need to. And I feel like after the Open kind of being that little bookmark in between the early part of Pro League, it's allowed a lot of these teams to figure out what they have to do differently.
Yeah, I think it definitely shook up the competitive landscape a bit too, because we saw such a renewed level of aggression at the Open that I think a lot of our teams weren't initially on days 1 and 2 really prepared for, that now is kind of carried over into our split. That's been really exciting to enjoy as a viewer from this side of things. So I am prepared for NA for the Americas, should I say, to just continue popping off here and see what they can really bring to our global competitive scene. And, you know, we got to chat in EMEA as well to Unlucky and see kind of where he stood on getting more EMEA teams back into that match point finals, Genome. And it was nice to hear that all of the chaos that we've seen in those roster changes in both of these regions right now looks like it's paying off.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be a bit more, you know, argy-bargy over in EMEA, I think, because they only have 8 slots. They're, you know, people, it's a bit cutthroat over there in terms of being on one of those top rosters, whereas in the Americas, you've got 16. It's kind of cruisy, man. Like half the region is going to land.
Cruisy.
Yeah, these guys are out here on yachts, just like they're probably got like a satellite link up that they're playing from. You know, big salaries, big scores. Everything's bigger in America, isn't that what they say?
That's Vicky with the sat link, okay? Vicky's on vacation right now, doing a little extra cast.
We're sure, you know what I mean?
I love
like
it.
getting a little sicky Vicky at the same time. I think Gino means Texas, by the way. But you know what? I guess it still stands considering that there's still a lot of American players that are still, you know, in Texas, still located there. But I also feel like just seeing the way that the different regions have approached. We've highlighted this already, but it's to reiterate the legend bands, how they've approached like the different map rotations. I think the legend band specifically should be a great indicator at where the state of that specific region stays, right? Like what can you get away with that you can't get away with other regions?
100%. Now, if you guys didn't get your fill of all of the ALGS action here today, typically it's a one-day weekend. Well, not this time, okay? We're keeping things going, running it back tomorrow. EMEA Match Day 5 will be kicking off at 10 a.m. PT, 1 p.m. ET, and of course 6 p.m. BST, which means you know that we'll also be doing Match Day 5 for Americas shortly after that as well. A weekend filled with Apex Legends action, okay? It doesn't get any better than that. And honestly, the fact that we're getting that in this was action in one weekend is going to be huge for kind of figuring out where things are going for the rest of the split. It's really gonna pick up from here, Genome. And I mean, they're not gonna get a lot of time to adjust.
No, I mean, obviously you need to the regional finals.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get through if that's not in your wheelhouse. And from there, it just gets harder and harder, right? Like, the regional finals are always a harder lobby than any of the match days.
I am so excited to see what happens here tomorrow. And then, of course, in subsequent weekends, because time is going to fly by before any of you realize it. And we will be at the regional finals, and we will be at our mid-season playoffs. And I can't wait to see what these new rosters will bring to the table. Like we heard Zach saying when we did our halftime interview, it's, you know, early days right now. We need to give it a couple months for these teams to get through what he called their honeymoon phase. And I do agree with that. Sometimes you get a new addition to the roster, come out the gate hot, and then have a little bit of a fall off. It's all about dealing with all of these obstacles as they come our players' ways. So I feel like it's going to definitely set us up for some spicy storylines as we continue to get through the rest of the split. And chat, let us know your thoughts how you're feeling about any of these roster changes in either region. If you follow along with both, whether that's EMEA or Americas, anything that you've loved so far. The addition of Sparrow, seeing that in the meta. I mean, we even got Sparrow banned today, and then we didn't see that in EMEA. So there's so many adaptations that have to be made on behalf of our players, like you guys have talked about. So I think that we're just in for a really, really good year of competitive Apex Legends. And everyone in chat, thanks for hanging out with us. We're just waiting to see if we can maybe potentially get some time with Timmy here after that. So while you're waiting, go ahead, follow us on social media at Play Apex Esports on X, YouTube, Play Apex on Twitch. That way, if you can't make it to any of our days, you'll be able to catch up on all of the action. You won't miss anything that we've got going on all year long in the ALGS, of course. And then when it culminates in champs, it was already epic this year. I can't wait to see what happens at the end of year 5 for these teams and players. I think at the end of it all, it's going to be a very different landscape than what we started off the year with. So it should be super, super fun. While we're waiting to see if we can get this interview going, I want to get some final thoughts from you guys. So Vicky, so we got through EMEA, now we're in Americas, little bit different here in this region. So tell me how you're feeling about the Americas right now.
So I feel like we need to give and have way more conversations about Winnie as a coach. Truly, Winnie has showcased time and time again what a strong coach she is. Like, not only navigating around NRG, but her entire history has just shown so much success. So yeah, I feel like between Winnie, between what we've seen from NRG, there is something that is aligning here with this team that we cannot ignore. I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore anyways, but also looking at the progress of how this team kind of plays ring around the rosy with one another. Like, we highlight Timmy a lot, right? But Guild himself put down over 9,000 damage today in the last 6-game series alone. So it's nice to be able to highlight a team that has already showcased that synergy early on and is now continuously building up now with the integration of Sykes.
Yeah, I mean, Guild is a beast. I think even though he is one of the best players, I feel like he still somehow sort of gets, underrated. Like, I think he's even better. Like, people think he's good, but I think he's even better than a lot of people give him credit for, because oftentimes he is just sort of playing off the moves of his other team. He's not necessarily going in with the flashy plays like Timmy. He's just kind of mopping people up and, doing his job sitting in the back. And then, yeah, like, I mean, I had a bit of a chat to Winnie after New Orleans, and it was just so great to hear how she's gone from, obviously from the APAC region, like so many successful Australian players have, and then moved over to take over this coaching role with NRG. And like, these were guys she didn't know, essentially, right? Like, just walking into that job. And I think it can be tough sometimes, but she was saying they've worked together amazingly, given her a lot of respect, and then she's had to earn it as well. And with the performance that they had at LAN and now these successes online in Pro League as well, I don't think you can deny that she does deserve those laudits.
Yeah, I think those are both really good points. And why is it the water in Australia? Why is Australia where you're just breeding a bunch of amazing Apex Legends talent? Make that make sense, explain it to me.
Can't.
It is just
not going to.
The natural way of the world, and we're not allowed in on any of the Aussie secrets. No, but I agree with everything that you guys said. I think that we are in for a really, really exciting era of Apex Legends. We'll take a look at some of Timmy's stats as we're waiting to get him in here so we can have a nice chat, because I know that we've got quite a few questions for him, but I'm excited to take a look at this, because I know we said he was the kill leader up there at the top with 23 kills, but this is kind of a cool way to break it down and also show what that translated to in damage and assists. I mean, that is also massive, because you have to remember when we were looking at that kill leaderboard, you guys have highlighted it a couple times, Guild was right behind him with only 1 kill, and you can see that Timmy is playing a role in those 22 of Guild's kills as well, Genome. I mean, this is just impressive.
That's super cool. I love this graphic as well, by the way, like showing all the legends he's played and just breaking it down like this is actually super sick. The fact that he got 6 kills on Crypto is especially standing out to me. I feel like the way Timmy plays Crypto, I mean, he is known as one of the best Crypto players, but the fact that he's idling and on Crypto, like 2 things that sometimes can make it a bit harder to necessarily frag out. You get 6 kills in that game is just nuts. That's just next level from the lad.
I think that it's especially impressive, you know, when we've done interviews with other players who have said that one of the hardest parts about this new meta is the fact that you have to no longer just specialize in one legend. You need to be good on multiple legends. And for some people, that's still maybe only 2 or 3. You get a situation like Timmy where he brings 6 unique legends, and as a squad they're finding success. As an individual, he's still finding success, and one of those legends is brand new. I mean, this is exactly what we were looking for out of the legend ban system. We knew that it was going to be an opportunity to really highlight some of the talent and what they can bring to the table. And I'm glad we get to look at Guild here as well, because like we said, he was 1 behind, 22 kills from Timmy, but look at that, 9.3k damage and 19 assists as well, going the way of Guild. I don't think underrated, like Genome said, could be any better a descriptor for the performance that we got out of Guild here, Vicky.
Yeah, I can't believe we went out without ever getting a ban on Catalyst or Ballistic. Gil was able to get away with murder out here. That's why he was able to put in so much damage. I mean, we saw what he did in some of those final fights in match number 6 with that Ballistic too, where we saw Ballistic at 100% pick rate. But that goes hand in hand with the amount of damage he's put in with following with Timmy alongside with that damage and the KP too. So far, all of Energy has been able to do fantastic.
Honestly, this is crazy, because then you consider the fact that Sykes was up there as the new addition to the roster in 4th place overall for the kills, and we get to see that as well. I was going to say at 16, and once again, no one is slacking on this squad. If they played like this every single time, people would be terrified of them, Gino.
I mean, they should be terrified of them every time. The fact that Sykes has been able to do this on his first outing with the new roster is also pretty special. It wasn't just a win. It was, you know, a complete and utter domination of the lobby. And, you know, we all know Sykes has got that dog in him. The real question is just that, you know, can he do it from week to week? We have seen, you know, issues sort of further down the line in some teams with Sykes. So it might be a question of how long does this last? Like Zach said, is this a honeymoon period?
Honestly, this is just such a solid trio performance here. So glad that we got a chance to take a look at these individual stats as well. 7.3k damage for Sykes, and it really will all come down to the consistency. You know, will they be able to repeat this performance week over week, let alone in, you know, multiple match days? I think that this is a good baseline for a situation when you've added a new player to your roster, because this is essentially an ideal performance, which shows them what they're capable of on the really, really strong side of things, so that if there ever is a situation where they fall off, they know that this is what they should be aiming for every single time. Literally no excuses. Now, to be fair, we only did 2 of our maps today. The other piece of this multifaceted equation will be, are they able to play as strongly on the other 2 maps? Because we need to be able to see that with the new roster as well, Vicky.
Yeah, if they could keep it up in general, and seeing if they could keep up the momentum here too. Now we get to see how, you know, different groups play out tomorrow, and kind of gather where other squads are after the Open too.
Well, we're going to give our casters a little bit of a break after a nice long day. Everybody at home, you heard us shout out that social media So make sure you're following along on there. Congratulations to our squads for getting back into Split 1 and having a phenomenal performance, especially NRG. And like we said, don't forget, we have another match day kicking off tomorrow. So for now, go log into the game and play some Apex Legends. Maybe one day we'll be seeing you up here playing in the ALGS. We'll see you tomorrow, Legends.